just have two up because that way we can. Audio check. Where you at? Dane, you there? You still watching? One, two, three. Audio check. Dane.
We good? I know, with our huge crowd tonight, I feel like we ought to be in a little focus group, right? All of us surrounding each other. All right, aloha mai kako. Aloha. Welcome to our second After Dark in the Park after 30 months of being on hiatus. I forgot to mention, thank you so much for Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park for once again sponsoring After Dark in the Park. We've got our little donation box out there as well. Tonight's program I'm really excited about because the Artist in Residence program at this park has just been phenomenal. We've had these amazing, amazing artists here. And we had an artist scheduled for you guys. Alice Lease, as some of you know, she is a grandmother. Grandchild came a little early, so she had to fly back to the US mainland. And I'm really fortunate because Tanya Ortega, the president of the National Parks Arts Foundation, which is a nonprofit, was agreed to step in at the very last minute to tell you guys about the Artist in Residence program here at the National Parks. Really, really cool. What can I say about Tanya? I started to make up stuff about her because I didn't know if I was going to catch her. So she said, no, don't say that. People believe me. She started working at Yellowstone National Park when she was just 17 years old, and then went on to become a seasonal ranger at multiple national parks. Background, bachelor's in fine arts. She also studied geology and earth sciences from NAU. So yeah, very cool. There's one other fan in the audience. Woohoo! NAU! Yeah, my master's project was through Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches, Texas, and there'll be like one person in the corner, yay, lumberjacks! Yeah. But anyway, just incredible opportunity to have her here. She's going to take us through the Artist in Residence program. She's going to talk to us about this phenomenal talent and how this program came about. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm volcano welcome for Tanya Ortega.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. I know it isn't really tradition necessarily, but I feel like we're such a good-sized group here that if you feel like doing anything like asking questions or heckling, there is going to be a Q&A afterwards, but I will be able to hear you. I can't see you very well, but this presentation should be about 45 minutes, and I guess, and I've never tried it before, but if you have any questions, I can't see you very well, but just kind of shout it out. I hope that's okay with everybody. So we are going to have a Q&A afterwards, but feel free. I feel very comfortable, and I'm proud of you all for coming, and I'm actually very proud of the Park Service. This auditorium looks fantastic. So to get started, Dean covered a few things, so I will to start here. My name is Tanya Ortega, and I'm honored to be here, of course. Here in the Aina of the Hawaii people, and of course the House of Pele, which the Park Service calls Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. We join in thanking the people of Hawaii and acknowledge the deep feeling and tradition that this amazing place holds in their and our hearts. Our current artists in residence, like Dean just said, had to head back to Texas for a brand new grandchild. So we understand that, being as family-oriented as a lot of us are, that is very, very important. So just trying to take her place, and I have to admit, I can't take any great artist's place, but I will do my best. So I'm going to be talking about the history of arts in the parks, the history of the artists here, various artists. We couldn't fit them all in. I think there has been about 30 here. And also the success of the program and different things that we're able to offer the public in the parks. So with that, and also let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow even. So this is Alice Lees, who is just here painting, and she's a wonderful artist. I'd also like to, oh, sorry, I forgot to thank the National Park Service, of course, and the sponsors of this program, especially the Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Without them, we would not be able to have these wonderful programs, not just this program, but a lot of programs that help the park and the people here. So if you have, the Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park does so much for us and everybody, it's amazing, along in partnership with the National Park Service. So, like Dean said, I'm the president of NPAF. I'm also the founder. And it's a nonprofit and the only entity of its kind working nationwide to offer artist-in-residence programs, museum in-loan programs, and workshops in cooperation with our national parks, national monuments, World Heritage Sites, and other parks. I am also originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So, having been from there, I was able to see a lot of art growing up. I come from First Nations traders in Zuni and Navajo lands on both sides of my family. I started to work in national parks as a teenager, like Dean said, and studied both art and geology and environmental science in college. I have a BFA, have different certification, and traveled and photographed all over the world. I was an artist in residence at Chaco National Historical Park and other parks also, and residence at various other entities. And so, sorry, going off script here a little bit. The reason that National Parks Arts Foundation is the only entity that does this across the nation is because I was working with the Park Service at such a young age in Yellowstone. I was lucky enough, Steve Sorrells was the superintendent there at the time. And I was lucky enough to be able to see the art that had been created by Moran there at that park, which we will get into a little bit later. And then I understood that the Park Service had started artist-in-residence programs and various other programs, but specifically artist-in-residence programs in the 60s. And some parks have been able to do it, but it's something that I'm very grateful that we are able to continue that tradition in the parks, which we will get into. So what happens with that is the national parks apply to our programs, and we take a limited number of parks that we're able to feel we can really offer quality programs. The other side of that is we have about 200 programs on a waiting list. And to be able to do that, we are looking forward to doing. That's down the road. That's going to take a lot more funding and a lot more work, and we are ready for that challenge. So we've been a nonprofit for 10 years. I, of course, started this many years before that. We created it as a nonprofit because it didn't have the equity that it should. And I just have to admit that. Parks were calling me to be the artist in residence. I was working with the Park Service and other jobs, concessionaires, that kind of thing, doing various other things. And so I had to start calling my artist friends to be able to come to parks. And it didn't seem fair not to be able to offer it to the public. So it was 10 years ago. next year will be the first year that we were able to start the programs as a nonprofit. So, might have gotten a little off script there, but thought you needed to know for context. So Chaco Culture National Historical Park was where, and I was the artist in residence there for many years. And another part of this that is a little bit more personal is there are so many programs out there for artists. And it was very hard in my early 20s to be able to have opportunities that I felt like should have been mine, but who doesn't? So I knew already about the things that the National Park Service wanted to do, so I started knocking on the doors of the parks. And Chaco, I was the artist in residence emeritus at, I still am, I think, for many, many years. So it began there. I had the idea to make it a nonprofit at Chaco Culture National Historical Park. And Hawaii Volcanoes National Park was one of the first programs that we had as a nonprofit. So we are very proud of it. And in fact, I moved here because I love it here. So anyway, going on. Tradition of the arts in the parks. How the national park idea came from an artist. Artists have accompanied explorers on many expeditions from which they brought back images of grand vistas, strange and beautiful life forms, diverse cultures, unspoiled skies, waters and landscapes, and some of the earliest visual records of places that would later be set aside as parks. Artist George Catlin is credited with having first coined the idea in 1832 for establishing a nation's park containing man and beast in all the wild and freshness of the nature's beauty. So here on the left we have Cathedral Rocks in Yosemite, California by Bierstadt. You've probably seen these many, many times. Top right, Thomas Moran, Tower Falls, and Sulphur Mountain. Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Bottom right, Ansel Adams, Arches National Park, Utah. The earliest conversation history of the United States involved painters like Thomas Moran, who I mentioned, who I was lucky enough to see. Oh, and I will mention it again later, but the Department of Interior Museum just had, and I think it's still happening, the largest exhibition of Thomas Moran works that has ever come together. So it's well worth looking at. So Thomas Moran and Albert Bierstadt, who sketched, drew, and painted along with the Federal Geological Surveys of the West. These images captured the imagination of the entire nation and were used to create the political will to establish the national parks as a living heritage that all Americans would experience themselves with their own eyes. When the surveying expedition returned, Moran's artwork was presented to members of Congress. So I want to show you or describe to you what that looks like. So when people think of Moran's work, he's very special because he was sent with the photographer to where Yellowstone now is, and is the reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that the Park Service exists. He went to DC and showed them not a gigantic, beautiful painting. This took years and years and years to create. He showed them watercolor sketches of Yellowstone in a small book. They looked at it, it was passed around. By just this one thing, they were convinced to get Yellowstone, to make the National Park Service. It's something that's kind of been lost a little bit, but it is definitely because of artists that we're able to have what we have now, at least in part. So the federal government purchased this massive painting, Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, for a then huge sum of $10,000. It was exhibited in the U.S. Capitol in 1872, seen by many influential politicians. This landscape painting played a critical role in fostering support for the establishment of Yellowstone National Park. A year later, Moran joined Major John Wesley Powell's expedition down the Colorado River and went on to paint many places that were destined to become national parks. Moran's artwork and William Henry Jackson's photographs, together with the surveyor's impressive findings and lobbying efforts, created support for the establishment of Yellowstone National Park in 1872, the first park ever. By the early 1900s, Painters were feeling financial pressure from the expanding influence of photography. Some shifted away from the representational art towards other art movements, but photography did not erase the appeal of handmade art. Art's persistence through the centuries stems from the creative and expressive elements to each artist's style, their unique ways of interpreting subjects, and sometimes the artist's ability to frame images not amenable to photographic techniques, such as historic and prehistoric reconstructions. Andy Goldsworthy's Spire by Doc Miles, National Park Service. It sounds like a few of you know this one. Bird Blind Confluence, Sandy River Delta by Maya Lin. So these are. Today, high-profile artists like Maya Lin, Andy Goldsworthy, and the aerial dance troupe Project Bandaloo, which we are trying to now work with at Big Bend National Park, are commissioned to make artwork at select national parks. The Spire by Andy Goldsworthy, one of many of his works found at the Presidio in San Francisco. Obviously, this sort of grand site-specific work can't be done at most parks because of delicate ecosystems and cultural considerations. But they stand as examples of how art and the national parks are still collaborating in the 21st century. As part of Imagine Your Parks mandate at the NPS as part of the 100-year anniversary of the national parks in 2016. Supporting the arts continues to be a crucial part of what the Park Service does here and in other parks. So here's the real question, one of the real questions. What makes art important and influential? So artists have played major roles in the protection of most of the parklands, refuge and wilderness areas in Hawaii and in other states, and by sheer size of area for most of America. But what is it about art that makes it influential? So I'm just gonna go off script here for a second. We've been really pretty lucky because we choose artists, number one, on excellence in art. It is something that happens from art, environmental impact, not impact by the art, but being able to show the interpretive effects. Like for instance, at Chaco Culture Historical National Park, they were going to be drilling, and what a lot of people thought was park boundaries. It wasn't, it was just outside, but it was sacred land. So we had an artist there who interpreted this, and the media was able to get a hold of him, and it switched it a little bit. So the drilling was halted. So his artwork came from a place where his excellence in art was important. The art was important. And from that, helped the environment, helped the people come together. And it's not just him that does it, but many artists here too. So art basically has no bounds in who is influenced by it, who it affects. It has no age limits, nothing like that. We can all be influenced by it. Art is personal and individual. People are inspired by art that reflects their ideals, dreams, and aspirations. Art that stirs strong emotions can also shift thinking and spur people into taking action. Little history of arts in this park. Art does not need to be realistic or even serious to be influential. How many people can trace their own interest in nature and science back to the illustrations in beloved children's books, the cover of an adventure story, or even a memorable series of comic strips? Art helps people to connect to a place and provides another way to relate to new experiences to ones from before. Recognition and originality are equally important for art to make an impact. People need to relate to the art, but to capture their attention, an artist needs to portray things in ways that were not already familiar to the viewer. Art transforms people into active observers and provides a starting point for empathy with subject, as people learn to see the world through the eyes of an artist. When the artist is able to capture the power and the emotional impact of what they are seeing, their art will strike a chord with others. Even before there was a national park in Hawaii, artists came to see and paint the volcanic landscapes. The group of artists came to be known as the Volcano School because of their favorite subject, the active volcanoes of the Big Island. The three names most associated with the group were Jules Tavernier, Charles Furneaux, and Joseph D. Strong. Also, I want to interject here a little bit. Though artists are on historic record, petroglyphs are also art. There's many other artists in the park that also don't get recognition that should be recognized. So the inset picture here is Jules Tavernier in his younger days. Obviously, you can't really do plein air close to the lava flares. Then as now, the sulfur dioxide's intense heat and the volcanic vents make it impossible to set up an easel and canvas on the site. But the artists sketched and made studies that they then recreated in their local studios. The epic nature of volcanic subjects were hugely in demand, and everybody wanted to see this amazing landscape. Of all the old masters of Hawaii painting, Tavernier is considered the most famous. A renowned and accomplished painter of landscapes of the American West, he could paint with both his hands at the same time. The native Frenchman, and I looked this up because I just had to make sure that I wasn't just reading 100-year-old newspapers, was a notorious drinker and a party animal, and people loved it. He was described by his contemporaries as, in quotes, volatile, explosive, and peppery, like the volcanoes he painted. And he had many of us originally fled to Hawaii to escape things. In the 1880s, cycloramas were all the rage. They were the IMAX movies of their day. In 1886, Tavernier painted a cyclorama of Kilauea's erupting crater, an immersive 360-degree canvas meant to be viewed from the inside. It was 11 feet high and 90 feet long. After touring Maui and Honolulu, the cyclorama was scheduled to be sent on a grand tour to Chicago, Boston, and London, and it was claimed by a creditor and stored in an attic somewhere in Maine and has never been seen since. Maybe it's our job to find it. So here's left is George O'Keeffe, Heliconia, Crab's Claw Ginger, 1939, private collection of Sharon Twigg Smith. Right top, view of the Maui landscapes at the show. Right bottom, Black Lava Bridge, Hanako series. Until 1961, Haleakala and Hawaii volcanoes were actually one park. In 1939, the modernist, genius, and painter George O'Keeffe got away from Alfred Stieglitz and traveled to Hawaii as a paid guest of the Dole Pineapple Company. She came in search of new forms, and here she sure enough found them. In Hawaii, Giorgio painted the many exotic flowers of the islands and the strange, to her, landscapes. In fact, you can perhaps argue that Giorgio O'Keeffe developed her pioneering late styles in Hawaii, once away and free from being in the big provincial city of New York. So maybe we have the Dole Pineapple Company to thank for that? I don't think so. I think it's just Georgia. And also, when growing up in Santa Fe, I didn't know what I was seeing as a child, running around the museums and that kind of thing there, and I was seeing, oh, I knew it was George O'Keeffe, of course, but I didn't know that this was all of Hawaii, and it stayed with me, it stayed in my head, and then to be here and be in the actual place of these paintings is such an amazing feeling. It's, gets me a little verklempt. NPAF artists here. So, again, I apologize, we couldn't fit them all in, but I did my best. So let's see. Okay, so here we have Mary Babcock. She was just here last month, and so we're going through a selection of artists and musicians who have been NPAF residents here. Mary Babcock is currently a professor of sculpture and expanded practices in the Department of Art and Art History at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She is a visual and performance artist deeply interested in the intersection of art, contemplation, and social activism. And actually, a couple weeks ago, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, she gave a walk. With a few of us took a walk at the other unit of the park, which escapes me. Thank you. The Kahuku unit of the park. How could I forget that? I apologize. Influenced by the confluence of Buddhist practice and the appreciation of everyday acts of care, she holds mending as a central thing in her work, both as an actual reparative action and as a metaphor for personal and social change. Her work is driven by a need to understand, critique, and speak about her culture, and is rooted in the desire to bridge two prevailing paradigms for art making: art as beauty and art as socio-ecological issues surrounding climate change. Living in Oceania, I think about myself, all of us, as water, with our shared resiliencies and vulnerabilities. I explore notions of preservation and dissolution and question question the ways in which we import and impose pterocentric and static understanding of boundaries on cultures and ecosystems more naturally accustomed to fluidity, which I personally would have to argue is the nature of art itself. This is Etsuko Ichikawa. Pretty dramatic works that she makes. Etsuko Ichikawa is a pyrographer, hot glass paintings and filmmaker from Tokyo, Japan. Artist quote, "My glass pyrograph is an abstract drawing on paper made with fire by scorching molten glass. This work captures and eternalizes the immediacy of a movement, and it is a trace of my body movement with fluid glass." Ichikawa was born and raised in Tokyo, Japan, and graduated from Tokyo Zokai University in 1987 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. So, just scrolling here. She came to and worked for Dale Chihuly as a studio assistant for over 8 years. After living in Seattle for 29 years, she has become nomadic and is currently traveling around the world to participate in art residencies like the one at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Her work has been exhibited internationally, including the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, Seattle Art Museum, 21st Century Museum Contemporary Art in Kanazawa, and the Ueno Royal Museum in Tokyo. She is shown at fine art galleries in the US, Asia, and Europe, including Winston Wachter Fine Art in New York and Seattle, Michael Warren Contemporary in Denver, and Turner Carroll Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Zoe Schlanger is another artist and writer. Zoe Schlanger is a creative nonfiction writer from Brooklyn, New York. She also writes about science for the New York Times and Newsweek. She has the National Association of Science Writers Award and Livingston Award finalist. While at her residency, she worked on her upcoming book, The Light Eaters, a narrative investigation into the new science of plant intelligence and sentience, taking readers around the world to meet the botanists who have discovered surprisingly sophisticated behaviors among diverse variety of plant species, and examining how these new insights challenge the way humans might see their relationship to the natural world. So, again, interjecting here, it's interesting, especially with various artistic media, the time that it takes to actually make and publish. So, a lot of people who don't know that much about different art media, and maybe don't know that much about art either, expect it to be like product. Like, how fast can the product be produced? And I think you can imagine with somebody who's a writer, especially, and we have many writers, and Zoe, of course, writing can take many years. Screenwriting can take many years, and we have had screenwriters at national parks who have actually made very popular television shows and movies, and sometimes those don't come out for 10 years. It's, you know, it depends on the artistic media and the artist how fast something is, but when people think of it as product and how quick you can do it, that just never works with art. Sure, some artists are faster than others, but some things take time. It's very, very special. Andy Warner. So you might remember him from a couple of years ago. He's been here a couple of years and is working on a book. He's a comics journalist and a contributing editor at the NIB. During his residency, he interviewed people about their experiences during the latest eruption cycle for a longer docu-comic about living with the volcanoes. So we are so grateful to the Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park because they were able, the director was able to introduce Andy to some very key people on this island and about the eruption, and the Friends group just deserves a tremendous amount of respect for this. He also interviewed National Park Service, and I'm sure you might remember a lot of people in his presentation that he had here. It was very good, and it's become very popular and is going to be published. The research and interview work at the residencies will go into his upcoming full-length book entitled Volcano Coast, to be published in Silver Sprocket Press. The book is written 150 pages, thumbnailed, but will be completed and published sometime in the next 2 years. So here's Alice Lease again. Alice graduated from Abilene Christian University with a BFA in Studio Art. She is a signature member of these Painters Guilds, American Plains Arts, Artists Colorado, Plein Air Painters of New Mexico, and the Outdoor Painter Society. She's represented by the Jeff Tabor Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Western Gallery in Dallas, Texas. She's been the National Parks Arts Foundation Artist in Residence at many parks, Fort Union, Hawaii Volcanoes, Dry Tortugas. She was just in Dry Tortugas, about 5 months ago. So Dry Tortugas is one where artists live on their, pretty much their own island. Alice paints the landscape in plein air studio works. Her Southwest landscapes and landscapes of the ranch usually include cows, cowboys, and windmills, wildlife, the oil field, and the people who live there. So I can't remember if I mentioned it. She is also a rancher in West Texas. So, yes? Anybody have any questions? I thought I heard something. So, artist goals. So there's a few people. We have not canceled any of our programs across the country, even during COVID. We've delayed as much as we can. Artists is one of those artists that we are looking to be able to fit in somewhere. Artist Olds, aka Artist the Artist, is a body percussionist and step dancer from Chicago, Illinois, and a member of Stomp Company, where he has played characters as Particle Man, Sergeant Ringo. Artist also, oops, sorry about that. Artist is also a teaching and performing artist specializing in stepping, South African gumboot, body percussion, step-inspired fitness, and large group classes. Artist is the featured artist in a virtual interactive stepping exhibit at the Smithsonian. It's all right, this keeps going, this keeps jumping ahead. I guess I should go faster, it's just a sign. The Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., and has traveled the globe instructing students from over 25 countries and appearing on numerous TV shows and news programs. Performance credits include Stomp, Step Africa, and the White House, for which he was invited. What is stepping? Stepping is a percussive, highly energetic art form that first developed through the song and dance rituals performed by African American fraternities and sororities. Stepping has been described as one of the most exciting dance forms created in the 21st century. Harun Mehmedinovic. Harun Mehmedinovic is a Bosnian-American filmmaker who is also a night sky videographer. He has made several acclaimed films about the subject of light pollution. He is also the cinematographer and co-producer of the Leonardo DiCaprio-produced climate documentary Ice on Fire for HBO. He is an author of 3 photography books, Seance, Persona, and Skyglow. He collaborated with Gavin Heffernan on Skyglow, which was originally crowdfunded, but a Blu-ray intended to tackle the rising danger and damage of urban light pollution. Skyglow is featured by Science Channel's Outrageous Acts of Science and the National Park Service as part of their official 2016 Centennial Celebration video, and was released as a hardcover book and Blu-ray series in April 2017. We're really excited to eventually have him here. Don Waters Baker is an oil painter of unusual metaphysical landscapes based in Texas, was born and raised in the Philippines as an expatriate, and only came to the United States when she was 18. This formative experience of witnessing poverty and grace has given her, in the artist path, a viewpoint that does not take things for granted. Artist quote: "My favorite artists are George Innes, Georgia O'Keeffe, and J.M.W. Turner. They seem to ride between the traditional and the contemporary, the mystical and the physical, the seen and the deeper things that are unseen. As a mentor of mine once said, it is landscape, but it is more than landscape." Says Waters Baker, "I was born and raised under the shadow of Mount Isarog, a volcano in the Philippines, and know the lush landscape that comes from volcanic ash. I also know the damage it can produce as I lived through the eruption of Mount Pinatubo." Hassan Alahi. Hassan Alahi is a multimedia surveillance artist. I'm sorry about that. Surveillance is watching from below. Originally from Bangladesh, a 2016 Guggenheim Fellow, after a run-in with Homeland Security, he has documented his life 24/7 as a critique of the modern surveillance state. He is the star of the wildly popular TED Talk, FBI, Here I Am, which documents his experience with the federal government and how it led to his art projects. Personal note, I had something very similar happen to me, so it was really, really good to have him here and talk about a shared experience during that time. He made it into a great and grand art project. I was not as vocal. I have great respect for that.
Tanya?
Yes?
Are these artists all have been in residence here at Volcanoes, or are they in other parks as well?
No, these are just the ones that are here. With the exception of Haroon, who does the night sky. So Haroon, an artist who's in Stomp, the one that went to the White House, they were accepted, but because it was during COVID, we're just still trying to shift when they can come. And both of them are important in really different ways. Haroon is, he did our Death Valley artist in residence and many other parks that we work with, but we just need to get him here. He's incredibly popular and hard to get, but he's excited, really excited. In fact, he's already in touch with the Park Service here for the last 2+ years, so yeah, these are pretty much everybody that's been here, or is supposed to be. Are there any other questions? I'll go on. John Ferdica. So he's a sculptor from the Bronx, living in Hawaii, who makes unique photo-printed sculpture. He's a visual artist who was born in New York but raised in Kansas City, where he earned his Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Kansas City Art Institute. He later earned his Master of Fine Arts from the San Francisco Institute and lived in Oakland, California before moving to Hawaii in 2012. He was actually an artist that we had a presentation at the Kahuku unit a few years ago. Nicholas Collier. This isn't, I would not have picked this one myself as work as is more in sculpture, but you can Google him. He's a U.S. Marine veteran and a large format view camera photographer known for his intense portraits and sculpture and installations. He has an art degree from George Mason University in Virginia and a Master's of Fine Arts degree from Florida State University, both earned after his time in the Marines in Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marine Regiment. If you're able to Google Nicholas Collier, he was in Stars and Stripes magazine a few years ago when he was the artist in residence in Gettysburg, and it's worth Googling about his artist in residence there and how these experiences are helping him work through a lot of things that he had to face as a Marine. And every time I watch it, it makes me cry. So Stars and Stripes is a good one to look at to get a more insight in him and feel the empathy. Jean-René LeBlanc is a digital and multimedia artist from Montreal. A longtime visitor to Hawaii, he makes digital collages about the powerful themes of nature on the islands. He was born in Montreal in 1967 and attended Concordia University. Jean-René is a professor of digital arts at the University of Calgary in Canada. He's co-founder of Sensorium Lab, a cross-disciplinary research group focusing on research that develops systems of interaction that encourage kinesthetic perception and interpretation. Kinesthetic perception is the study of body motion and the perception, both conscious and unconscious, of one's own body motions. How am I doing on time? Does anybody know? Am I good? Okay. Emma Stiven. She's amazing. She's an acclaimed UK artist born in Germany who makes large monochromatic works of some of nature's most extreme landscapes around the world. Since 2013, she's a member of the Royal Academy of Art. She's traveled and made art in Antarctica, Svalbard, and Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and Death Valley National Parks. Emma Stiven, Royal Academy of Art, works primarily in drawing and print on paper, depicting environments that are undergoing transformation, including the polar regions, volcanoes, deserts, coastal, and urban locations. Her approach to landscape is driven by the desire to understand how human activity and the forces of nature shape our surroundings. She does this through location-based research, often working alongside geologists and scientists, and in the large studio where information is transformed into large-scale drawing and printed artworks. Her work is held in private public collections, including the Staatsmuseum, Berlin, Bristol City Museum Art Gallery, the Lang Art Gallery, Newcastle, New Art Gallery, Walsall, and the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And Emma donated an incredibly valuable and beautiful piece to this park. So here's a few composers. Please let me know if I'm going too fast. So you might remember Ben Cosgrove. He was just here a couple months ago. He's been in many parks across the United States, and he's been in every U.S. state except Delaware and until a couple months ago, Hawaii. Cosgrove is a traveling composer, pianist, and multi-instrumentalist from New England. He travels constantly all over the country performing a unique variety of original instrumental music that explores the themes of landscape, geography, and environment while straddling a line between folk and classical music. He's collaborated with artists ranging from rock bands to string ensembles and held artist residencies and fellowships with institutions including here at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, Acadia National Park, Isle Royale National Park, White Mountain National Forest. He is electric and exhilarating. Live performances are at once dazzling and intimate, music that has been described as stunning and compelling and powerful. He was also at the Kahuku unit. And this is Sam Nestor. Sam he's pretty amazing. Sam Nestor is a trumpet player and site-specific eco-composer from Australia. He uses sensors on plants to read their signals and translates them into musical textures, which are then combined with composed material to make music that is a combination of site-specific natural art and traditional compositions. Australian-born trumpet player Sam Nestor leads a diverse career as a performer and educator. Nestor has performed for Lincoln Center's mostly Mozart Festival and Lincoln Center Outdoors, the Beijing Modern Music Festival, BAM Next Wave Festival, the Paris Opera Ballet, Wordless Music Orchestra, Mark Morris Dance Group, and Festival of New Trumpet Music, and among others. Nestor has premiered works by Pulitzer Prize-winning composer John Luther Adams, John Cale of the Velvet Underground, and John Zorn. In 2019, Nestor was the Bruny Island Foundation Artist-in-Residence, creating site-specific recordings inside the island's iconic lighthouse. In 2020, he partnered with George Mason University to design a year-long interactive light and sound installation of their Virginia campus. And really, it's amazing. It needs to be looked at. In collaboration with visual artist Caroline Ronsberger, architect Christopher Clinton, and plant ecologist Daniel Sprott, Nestor created a public art and sound installation based on his Arcadia project for the city of Hobart in Australia. In 2021, he was artist-in-residence for Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and it was commissioned by Colby College to design a new environmental sound and light installation for the opening of their Green Block Studios Center for Innovation in the Arts. Nestor has been a Fulbright Scholar, a recipient of the Australian Music Foundation Award, Brian Vogt Outstanding Performance Award, and an American Australian Association's Dame Joan Sutherland Fund grantee. He graduated with a Bachelor of Music Studies from the Queensland Conservatorium and Bachelor of Music for the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts with first-class honors. He received a Master of Music and Doctorate of Music awards from the Manhattan School of Music, earning the Helen Kahn Award for Outstanding Performance. Also, we forgot to put in here that when he was here, he was invited by, I think it was the Honolulu Orchestra, to stay in Honolulu and play with them for a few performances, nighttime performances last year. So it was quite an honor. They found out he was coming and just got a hold of him. So that was wonderful. Shishuan Yang is a multi-instrumentalist, songstress, and performing artist from California, specializing in violin, eru, this is shown in the picture, piano and electric violin, and looper pedals. The Grammy-nominated artist, winner of the Third Arts Award of the Caramago Foundation Fellow in France, Shishuan Yang, violin, eru, piano, a native of Taiwan, began studying music at a very early age. Today, her renowned skill and eclectic versatility of the violin, eru, and piano can be heard through the globe, from playing with Yo-Yo Ma and Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys to Grammy Award winner David Foster and playing for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Her body of work spans across a multitude of genres and reaches beyond borders. The eru is a Chinese two-string bowed instrument, more specifically known as a spike fiddle, which may also be called a southern fiddle, and is sometimes known in the Western world as the Chinese violin. It is used as a solo instrument as well as small ensembles and large orchestras. So when she was here, it was COVID and things weren't open. We weren't able to do a concert here. And what she did, she's amazing. What she did is she got a hold of local places, even smaller venues, and she's used to playing in incredibly big venues, and she just wanted to share her work. So she kind of went around the island and played at small places. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I was really impressed. She didn't, part of her work, and I find this really honorable, is she just wanted to share it. It doesn't matter to her if she's in a gigantic, the Sydney Opera House, or if she's at Huggos or something, and I thought that was really giving of her. Andy Jarima is a composer, music educator, and trumpet player. He's been active as a public school music teacher since 2011 and is currently a K through 6 elementary music and band leader. At the park, in addition to running workshops and interacting with visitors, he recorded natural sounds throughout each park and created electronically processed in soundscapes and nature beats using the computer software Max MSP. Some of his residencies include Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and Yellowstone National Park, upcoming. In 2016, he was granted a fellowship from Fund for Teachers, an organization that empowers public school teachers to create their own unique, innovative professional development communities. He embarked on a 28-day trip on Route 66, researching how the historic highway drove American culture and affected the transmission of musical genres across the country. Andy has also been selected several times for Artist in Residence position in many national parks. Glenn McClure. Glenn McClure is an eco-artist and composer who uses natural sound gleaned from all over the world and creates his compositions. He has since received the National Science Foundation I-Corps grant and is devoted to exploring innovative applications of the sonification algorithm in a variety of industries. McClure has served as artist in residence for the National Parks Arts Foundation at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, where he worked with scientists to create a musical exploration of the volcanoes. He was awarded the National Science Foundation Artists and Writers Fellowship. He traveled to Antarctica to compose music based upon the work of UCSD climate scientist Dr. Peter Romersky. Mr. McClure recently received a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts Opera Division in partnership with the Mountain Lake PBS for his new voting rights opera, Promised Land, an Adirondack folk opera. Will Oldham and Elsa Hansen Oldham. Will Oldham is an acclaimed singer-songwriter, Palace Brothers, Palace Music, who performs under the moniker Bonnie Prince Billy, and whose songs have been covered by Johnny Cash, Marianne Faithfull, and many others. Elsa Hansen Oldham is an American textile artist. She's known for her figurative cross-stitch hand-sewn depictions of real and fictional people and mythological characters. They memorably performed at this auditorium together, and he is still working on it's gotten apparently a little bit larger, the inspiration that he got from here. So we're looking forward to that. He performed songs here that he wrote when he was here about being here, and it was fun. I hope you all were able to make it to that one. It was really pretty great to have Bonnie Prince Billy there. Byron Yasui is a classical composer and university professor from Hawaii who has worked to create a new repertoire for the ukulele outside its roots as a folk instrument. In 2018, Yasui's student Tamika Kane played the first classical ukulele recital to take place at the University of Hawaii. In 2015, Jake Shimabukuro and the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra performed the premiere of Yasui's Concerto for Ukulele and Orchestra Campanella. In Yasui's view, the ukulele means music to be taken seriously. It doesn't have to be classical. It can be jazz, says this multi-instrumentalist, composer, arranger, songwriter, teacher, scholar, and author. So, bearing fruit, success stories. We've been very lucky. In the decade of arts residencies at the park, we've been honored to have Hawaiian artists at the park, thus closing the infinite circle of traditional arts practice for centuries with the future of Hawaiian art in the 21st century. Rick San Nicolas, the master featherworker, has been a resident artist at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, I think, on 4 separate occasions. The process of traditional featherwork is intense and painstaking, often taking months to complete. While in residence, he opens up his studio for public viewing and answers questions about the traditional process of making ahu'ula, the feathered cloaks then and now of the leaders of the Hawaiian people. He also held demonstration workshops so that young people can be exposed to this unique work and their cultural experience validated and expanded. He, if you Google him, you can see all of the different things that he's doing. He gives back in a big way to the community, for legacy, for all kinds of things. He also is doing one of the very few people who get to study the real regalia of royalty at the Bishop Museum and other places to be able to make it. And he's working on a production right now, TV movie production, and he's going to be the one that is in charge of making sure that it is accurate. And I'm pretty sure we can all figure out what that is. And he gives back to all ages too. Allison Ilana Milham is a book artist and a musician who has also recorded a selection of the beautiful and powerful songs of Queen Liliuokalani on a record called Aloha Malama, Legacies of Liliuokalani. During her residency, she recorded more compositions as well as worked on more of her book art projects. And we were very, very lucky in the park. It's amazing. The Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park were able to purchase one of her books for the park. Ephemeral Earthwork and Art is Ritual by Ian Kuali'i, made during his residency. Ian Kuali'i is a multidisciplinary self-taught artist of Hawaiian and Mescalero Apache ancestry, working in the forms of large-scale and hand-cut paperworks and murals, and the ephemeral site-specific installation, which he calls Art as Ceremony. Ian, who was the School for Advanced Research 2019 Ronald and Susan Dubin Native Artist Fellow, fluidly merges urban contemporary art with his indigenous ancestral iconography and history. 2 large paper-cut murals by Ian Kuali'i. Oh, sorry, not on that one yet. There you go. Got a little off track here. So these 2 are the paper murals. Ian's portraits, journal entries, and scenes are masterfully rendered in hand-cut paper with a blend of loose urban contemporary techniques and in some cases collaged found materials. Ian describes his creative process as the meditative process of destroying to create. From a single sheet of paper using only an X-Acto blade as his tool, Ian's portraits, journal entries, and scenes are masterfully rendered in hand-cut paper with a blend of loose urban contemporary techniques and in some cases collaged found materials. Ian describes his creative process as the meditative process of destroying to create. Sorry, I'm on repeat. About his work, he creates Prince Freedom Fighter Congressman Jonah Kuhio and Hawaiian Homes Commission Act of 1920. So that's what this one interprets. The Hawaiian Homes Commission Act of 1920, hand-cut paper with painted verso cluster created for the Trout Museum of Art's Reclamation Identity Indigenous Native Group exhibition curated by @DMA CE Art. And this hand-cut paper cluster, you find a portrait of Prince Kuhio Center, who was instrumental in getting Kanaka back, our ancestral homelands. Word is that he was requesting for proof of lineal descent from homestead lands and not the blood quantum system like we have for our Kuleana lands. In this cluster, Prince Kuhio is surrounded by patterned symbols of war, protection, repair, and Hawaiian play on the American flag, one inverted, and text elements from the Department of Interior's Hawaiian Homes Commission Act of 1920 hearings. Honored having the ability to share this work and bring further visibility to the histories and struggles of my people. Stan Honda. So with respect to the Haleakala and Hawaii Volcanoes National Park being one park, I wanted to show all of you what just happened about a week and a half ago at the MAC, at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. So with our programs, we have exhibitions and workshops, all different kinds of things, either in the national parks themselves or in the gateway communities, and usually we're very lucky and get to working with great museums, partnering with wonderful museums. So NPAF Artist Emeritus Stan Honda currently has a show at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. Stan is a renowned photojournalist for the Agents France Press who took some early and iconic photos of the World Trade Center ruins. He now makes night landscapes with his own unique signature. He has traveled and photographed at many different national parks, capturing what they look like when the night rules. He also has a couple of books out too. As my talk gets to a close, we want to take this opportunity to point out some of the benchmarks of success that we've been proud to achieve. The success of the program has resulted in securing a larger accommodation for visiting artists just outside of the park that's suitable for family groups and artist collective, which includes recording space for musicians and a dedicated studio for artists and sculptors, as well as all sorts of amenities that make the live workspace viable for artists. Community outreach. So I've mentioned this probably a couple times already. NPAF knows its most important task is community outreach, an area where we know we can always do better. NPAF is also working on building outreach to create more events as artist venues in nearby Volcano and Hilo. We hope this will establish a two-way flow between park and visitors and local artists and arts patrons. Since we now have a strong track record and experience of bringing artists to this and other national parks, it is now appropriate to approach other arts organizations to link up and do joint events with our artists in residence. By the way, let me know if you think of places where this art synergy can happen, because we are very open to it now. We do work with many places, but with as many artists as we have now and these opportunities, it's a great way for people to appreciate the park. It's also a way, one of the things that these programs do, one of the things that's important is it takes the park out of the park. It creates the importance of the sacred environment to people who can't come here and see it. This is Alice Lease again. It's a triptych. We all know this at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Like many of our resident artists, Alice Lease is presenting something, presenting a painting to us, not this one, oops, sorry, did it again. To ensure the legacy of art at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. This painting is, of course, of the crater, but I will close with, well, I will say a few more things. A few people that we really need to thank, of course, is the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park Friends Group, the Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and the National Endowment for the Arts, and all of our individual sponsors, and especially the National Park Service for letting us have these programs. If you go onto our website, you can see many of the sponsors that we have in the different places, you know, like the MAC, and different groups that we work with. So if you have any ideas, we want to be stronger in that area and reach out more, because there is a lot of beauty to be shown, a lot of interpretation. So here I have, since Alice had to leave early, she left this painting for now to be donated to us and the park, possibly. Oh, I'm sorry, they didn't put a slide in. But you can kind of see it with your opera glasses. So we'll figure that out later, and it's amazing. The one of the things that makes our program unique is that we try to make it very equitable, in that we ask the artists what they want to do. We ask the artists, what can you offer the parks? We say the same thing to the parks, but we say to the artists, you know, do you want to do a donation? It wouldn't have so much equity if we demanded that, especially being a nonprofit, demanded that of them. I mean, if you can imagine if an artist that was incredibly well known wanted to do a residency, that's great. If they offer something that is something that other artists can't offer because they're not at that monetary value yet, it wouldn't be fair. But we're very lucky in that our artists are donating to the parks. And since we also are going to be partnering with the Department of Interior Museum, and of course we partner with a lot of other museums, we're able to offer, for instance, Rick San Nicolas is presenting a piece to the Department of Interior Museum, and we're looking at doing an exhibition there. And like I said, the other exhibitions there have been like the Moran exhibition. It's beautiful. It is on par with the government entity, the DOI of the Smithsonian. It's really very incredible. So with that, I'll go on to my Q&A section. Oh, yes, I would like to. Yes, I would like to present this painting to Ben Hayes.
To the National Park Service.
Yes, to the National Park Service, to Ben Hayes. I can't see over here. Where is Ben? Making sure I don't have it upside down. There we go. Thank you for. And Alice is, thank you, Matt. I'll put it back. Unless you got your portfolio with you? Parted around? Alice has given workshops here also, so she's been about the community, and thank goodness the Friends group has been able to sponsor that. And Rick has also given workshops, most have. We like to have a public event with them, which is why I'm here instead of Alice. But anyway, so, oh, there you are. I'm glad I can see you now. This is the Q&A part. Yeah, ask
She wants to know who that gentleman is right there. Who is that Ben Hayes?
This is Ben Hayes.
Hello, I'm Ben Hayes. I'm a supervisory park ranger. I'm the manager for the interpretation education visitor services here at the park.
He's amazing.
Is that $5?
So what else would you like to know? I'm sorry, I don't know what time it is. I apologize if I went on too long or too short. I'm just on to, I'm a little bit over time. I went into our Q&A part. I don't have Instagram with me or anybody like asking questions on the internet. I'm not that technical yet. Hi.
Hello. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you.
Where do we find out about what's going on? I don't seem to be in touch with that flow of things. You know, when these artists come, what are your outlets for getting the word out about that?
I'm sorry about that. It's a lot of social media. The park has posters here. The park also puts out sometimes press releases and puts everything on their social media and on their calendar. So a lot of it is on the park site as well as our website and our social media.
Can I also add to that, the Friends of Hawaiian Volcanoes National Park have been remiss. We have not been good about getting the information
Yeah,
out.
I'm not seeing these.
And it's especially been during COVID.
Oh, cool.
But I think now, I'm not sure, but I know that between the park and us and others, there should be a much smoother, I can't speak for the Park Service, but at least I know we're going to make sure that from now on, we know what we're doing wrong. And so we'd like to do it better. because it's exciting. I miss some of the people we supported. Me too. So we're gonna make sure we don't miss it anymore.
And with, especially the last couple of years has been just, we've all had to be so flexible that, and sometimes even when people come and want to have many concerts, even with at other places outside of the park, we try to catch up with them, and thank goodness they're giving to the community, but there's a lot of we've just had to be flexible. But so it's on our website, the park's website. Social media is, I think, one of the more reliable ones. If you sign up for the National Parks Arts Foundation email list, which is on the first page of our website at the bottom, you will also be informed. So it's hard. I have to admit, it's hard to find, and also to keep up with all the social media too. It's not
I can
easy.
blame it all on our IT guy, Stephen Geiger, that works for the Friends. I'll just blame it all on him. He's not here right now.
Let's blame it on IT. Everybody in IT knows. No IT is paying attention right now. Let's blame it on them. Did you have a question or comment?
I heard about tonight from the Tuttle calendar, a newsletter I get in my PO box.
They're great.
It's really nice to find out. But they described the artist as a bovine artist. Is that her self-description? Bovine art?
I do not know that she would describe herself as a cow.
Let's describe it as
Maybe
both
that's
mine.
why a whole bunch of people, I think you might have had a better showing if it wasn't like bovine artist. And they had a picture,
Wow.
they had a picture of a cow's head.
Wow.
Yeah. Because looking at that beautiful landscape, it's so beautiful,
Oh, yeah, she's incredible. I don't, that's not a term in all my years of being a curator and things,
Yeah.
that's not a term that I know about, so I better look that up. That sounds French.
Well, didn't she have a painting that was of a cow skull? Wasn't one of her
Oh, I think
famous
so.
paintings is of a cow skull, and I think maybe that.
She's done cows.
Yeah, right,
Right.
but Hawaii volcanoes, we don't have cows in Hawaii
The
volcanoes.
audience to come.
Not in the park. What, sir?
Maybe she called it.
Exactly, I was about to say that. She is a rancher of many generations in the same gigantic West Texas ranch. So maybe that's what that means. But she does paint bovine, but it's not her particular theme. It's not her own theme.
It was just kind of quirky, so I thought I'd mention it.
Well, then it
Yeah.
got you out here though, didn't it?
Well, it got me, but it didn't get my husband. I don't think so.
And before I forget, I also want to thank Hawaii Tracker too for coming and spreading the word about the good things that are happening in our community.
Are we live right now? on
I think
Hawaii
we're
Tracker?
live, yeah. I think we're live.
We're live on Hawaii
Bye,
Tracker.
everybody.
We are live on Hawaii
Thanks
Tracker,
for
Hawaii
coming.
Pod.
Does anybody else have any questions? I love this group. This is the most intimate group I think it's ever happened.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
The Georgia O'Keeffe artist,
Mhm.
the painting that they showed, there's a painting that she had done that's called the Light Iris, I believe. Was that also painted in Hawaii or about Hawaii?
I think it was, but I need to Google that to find out for sure. I think you're right.
The light iris.
Good memory. I wanted to. Oh, I'm not connected to the internet. Somebody, the Light Iris. I bet you're right. She painted a lot while she was here. So she was mostly on Maui. Was even, I guess, a book written about the woman who accompanied her, and these are these great photographs of her. And she was young. This woman was young when she was accompanying her. I think she was like
It was the family she stayed with on Maui
exactly.
had a daughter, and her name was Patricia, but I forgot the last name. It's a wonderful book.
I've been wondering about that book. Yeah.
Very worth buying.
And just seeing the photographs and her going, can you imagine as a child being able to hang out with Georgia O'Keeffe, going to all these different places?
It wasn't just that. Georgia O'Keeffe's confidence and her work ethic affected this girl. She was 16 and she got to go with her everywhere and hang out with her, and it sort of, she writes at the end that it really changed her, and her life changed as a result.
I can't imagine how it wouldn't. I mean, being with Georgia O'Keeffe, but also being able to be in that Jeep and go to these places. And, you know, at that point, Georgia O'Keeffe was, you know, she was hired to do this, and to be able to influence somebody at that age, can you imagine? That'd be wonderful. And interestingly enough, so as we know, the different parts here, the house is near the Kahuku unit where the artists stay, and it is formerly known as Mark Twain Estates, because we also all know that Mark Twain, the writer, was also here. I mean, the list of how many artists have been here is fantastic. It is huge. And I don't know of a comprehensive book or anywhere that they are all, oh my gosh, I mean, it is so great that we even have Twig Smith painting going into the Volcano house here. Every time I walk in there, I'm so appreciative that we have that, you know, just in the park. And so I have to admit here that I had some doing with the lobby in there, so collected those and was able to use all the paintings that are in there, which are reproductions, because one of the things that I personally am very invested in is making sure that art is archived correctly. A difference in temperature or whatever. Anyway, there's that beautiful fireplace in there, which was in a photo that I took of it was in the Art Deco period at the Honolulu Museum. So the blasting game fireplace was in that exhibit.
Volcano House.
In Volcano House.
So when George Clay Perkins was alive, there was a beautiful painting of Pele coming out of the volcano all through my childhood. And it's not there anymore. And I hope it's archived. It was so beautiful. And I suspect it was a volcano too.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
I bet it was. And the thing too is being able to have the park archive things in a good way is very important. So that's why we can't have the actual pieces, even historic pieces, even religious pieces. But I think that's time. I want to thank you all for coming. And I hope you come to all of the programs here at the park. They're doing wonderful. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate that. Yes, by the way, that painting is archived, so don't worry. Yeah, Ben and I were just in the back saying, actually, we just saw that recently in the archive. I have it on very good authority that the views of the volcano are really good tonight. The lava lake is high. Ken Hahn sent out an update to let us know it was rising. So if you would like to stay in the park after dark, please do. And then a reminder for next week, next Tuesday, we'll be doing the 1-year anniversary of the current eruption. So we'll have the folks from USGS here with stunning images over the year in our big 4K projector there. So join us again next week. Mahalo nui loa. Thank you.
And
I don't think it's public.
no, well, let's
Yeah.
take a look. Well, he doesn't have moving.
Okay.
I know there's a lot. We're crossing a lot of streams right now.
Guys, we just crossed 3 streams. Right, here's.
Okay.
Do you have the battery packs? Do you need it?
I will in a second. Let me get these cameras on.
Still fending me. Okay, I'm back here now. Phil's back here now. We're all over here now.
All right, so we're all here. Everyone can see.
Yeah. Let's see here. Comments up. I'm making a jump. That's us.
Okay, that's not a cloud. That's right. And you can get your 10.
Alright. Now we can all take a deep breath again.
Not yet.
Let's see. This is where the left side goes.
This one. Going in hot.
You do?
Oh my.
Camera number 2 going in. Alright, camera 2.
What stuff is it?
Dan is very confused. He doesn't know which of your 3 streams he's supposed to be sharing.
Can you
Okay,
can you find one?
Yeah,
and
I'm
just
gonna
pull the
pull the
link? I'm gonna do this for him so he knows.
copy link.
So there we go. So now he knows that is our current stream that we're on.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to him on Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Since I have it open right here. Here we are. Okay. There you go, Dane. I was trying to copy that link, same link as well, to
Okay, what am I missing?
spam it.
Power cords and juices. Okay, battery packs for me.
I don't have them.
Okay.
What time did you guys start filming?
Well, so we were trying something new tonight, and we tried to
Those are the ones you packed
live
up.
stream
so
after
quick.
the
I didn't
presentation.
pack it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
then you
roll
came.
it straight over like continuously to here. We're not sure if we succeeded or not, but that was the goal to like actually join them together.
Good. Did you get Jupiter too?
I don't know that we can catch those with these cameras.
I'm just letting everybody know.
We had the other
I'm like, I want to put that link onto the other side.
Much better, much better than.
Okay, holding it.
They had it on, and it wasn't dark skies. And you could sit there and see 3 moons, the 3 big moons around it. And that was kind of impressive. And here I'm using this micro phone. But it works. Works better than my. I need to take a class on photography. It really good.
Okay. Main power established. Okay, where's that box
I'm
at?
glad to see she perked back up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at the tilt meter and it was going. So I was like, okay. I don't know how Janice knew, but somebody must have called her because I ran into her and she was like, I'm going out there right now. Alright. I'll check on your page.
Yeah, I think we switched it over to these guys, 2 pineapples. They also have a YouTube channel. These guys, they come up here and stream for hours.
What's the name of theirs?
2 pineapples. You know, we're trying to work, collaborate. Like crowdsourcing all of our
And that's what
experience, right? To share it with all of them.
that's the best way. It's all from greater
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, this is more like it was, I mean, it's not that billowing like last year, but from what I've seen since I've been back, 2 weeks, there's a lot of, right there in the front.
What's that?
It's a bright, that really bright.
Really bright spot, yeah.
There's a big breakout. There's a hope when you get to the other side over there.
Because they were down at,
You were down there tonight? You guys were down there at this overlook
No,
down
I
there?
haven't been down there tonight, no.
he was
Okay.
down there tonight earlier.
You're because you're so much closer. This whole right side is actually erupting.
There we
In
go.
other words, it's
There's a
picking
nice
up.
shot.
The left side,
Yeah,
the whole
that's what I
place
was trying to
is
see,
lit up.
thanks.
it's not done, I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean,
Yeah,
and we've
it's-
only come here
Okay, I think I can breathe.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting.
It
So
really
what
is,
did
right?
Ben say, hon? He said something was plugged.
What?
Yeah, there was a USGS information statement come out earlier today.
That's what he said.
Yeah, and
You said it was what?
they said there was a blockage that prevented the lava from reaching the lava lake, and then it cleared the blockage, and at the same time the crust
All right, guys,
dropped
how's
by
the audio on your end?
Oh, did it? It
Wow.
dropped or went up?
The crust dropped as the lava came out.
Oh,
So the lava flooded out, but the actual solid,
All
all the
Diane
rest
said
of the
was
solid crust
strobe
dropped
micro
below.
radius.
I got you. Okay. Well, that'll happen.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, and what's
So it's got that backside right now. It's just, it was like this,
The people that came
not last
down here
Friday,
like
but
were disappointed
Friday
that
before
all
last.
this-
That
was
left
the best
side
place.
over there was breaking loose. And at that time, the lava lake was at 137 meters. The last week, it went up to 147.
yeah,
So they're going up 10 meters
yeah.
in a week. And you could actually pick it up at Volcano House and that little shack that's down this side of it.
You could see the lake surface itself.
What's that? You can see the lava lake from
Oh,
there.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah, and then when we were over at Kilauea,
Right on, Ed. Thank you.
Overlook
Tiggy, thank you.
last Thursday,
Don, thank you.
he was fogged in that day.
Right, right.
It had rained from noon
Whew.
until
That was a heck
we
of a
walked
run.
up
I
there.
got one more
This
camera.
is going to
So
sound
what are
sacrilegious.
you doing?
But
We're live streaming
we
on
have
YouTube.
there's about, we went up
Okay.
the
Do you do that every night?
one
No,
car. We
2-3
kept on
nights a
driving
week.
back around.
Depending on what's going on with
Make sure you turn off
activity
the-
here.
So is this
And yeah,
good
we went down to the
activity?
Kilauea.
This is really
Overlook.
good, yeah, because we were kind of stalled out for the last few days, and this was
We
a big
walked
surprise
right over
tonight.
to
Really?
Because it's oozing
The
up
Overlook?
all over the
and
place.
there's
And what's
people from
the
San
advantage of
Francisco,
coming to this
8
point
people from
versus
someplace
Demolition?
else, and 2 or 3 from
Devastation
another place.
chill, devastation chill on the
And
other
we
side.
walked
yeah.
You're
This
two
is
miles
great.
in a
And walk
bit
up,
back over here, over on the other
It was
side,
kinda
you're
like
only a
we took a
mile.
Okay, so it looks a little more.
Yeah, you're gonna get a little bit
but the
closer.
wind was blowing right through
But
it.
since we have the cameras to be able to do that, we can.
About that time, and it was dark. I mean, it wasn't dark. It was still, that sunset was
Right,
not,
right.
that
It's
big
behind,
place.
right behind.
And all of a sudden, you could see this orange stuff shooting up a little bit. It was kind of neat. So we watched it for 30 minutes or something like that, and then we told that group, or I did, they need to come over here to see it. And so they left. We left after them, and we knew where to park over here because we were ranger. And we were over here checking things out, and they walked up. How did you get here so
So
soon?
it's not usually this active?
No, it is. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
just
everyone.
not active for a few days, and it just started picking back up.
Good job out here. Our buddies from St. Louis are going to be watching.
Yeah, it's a good night. Good night, friends.
Okay.
Oh,
What is this camera?
Oh, yeah, just close it.
I can't close it. It just stays on there.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Got it?
I'm one camera away from getting a drink of water and catching my breath. That was a whirlwind.
It's hard for him to boogie with his knee.
Yeah.
He didn't bring his
I
knee
did
brace.
physical therapy today too, so my knee's a little sore. All right, last camera to go. That way they can see us. This is the us camera.
I'm gonna wait till it comes down a little bit before I take my camera off.
Okay.
Then we'll take a peek.
Mm-hmm.
My husband left.
No, I'm over here.
Oh,
I'm over here.
He is.
I'm over here.
Oh, okay, good.
You gonna come over here? No?
Yeah. 'Cause I don't know how to get home.
That was the plan.
I know.
USB, where are you? Okay. Oh.
You're going to be closer on devastation, but he said the walk is shorter.
Where you at, Phil? You in there? I see you.
Oh, here I am.
There we go.
Yeah,
Hey guys, there we are. Woo! We made it.
We did make it.
What a whirlwind, huh?
We thought we'd try something new for you guys tonight. And
Woo-hoo-hoo. Not talking about testing the boundaries, right? That was good. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We are live here at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I'm up here with Philip Ong. Dane DuPont's on the other side. My lovely wife is somewhere walking around.
Behind you.
Oh, there she is. We came up tonight to do the presentation, film the presentation in the auditorium, and got a bonus with the Ooze Up activity. Was that what we called this out here tonight?
yeah, it's a lot of ooze up. There's probably a better term we can come up with it, but yeah, it's really, almost call it a little mini crisis, right? Because we saw the tilt meter spike up those 12 microradians. That's
Right.
not something we've seen in a long time, really.
Mm-hmm.
About a year, right, when the eruption began.
At least.
Not quite a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So when we saw that kind of range of tilt
Mm-hmm.
drop, right? And interesting that it's so localized to that summit area
Right.
and not spreading elsewhere. And so that's really fascinating. And we saw like a mini crisis.
Yeah.
The same pattern we often see: build up of pressure, like blockage, build up of pressure, earthquakes, and then the release. But it all happened so fast.
Yeah, it was quick.
Right?
Yeah, in a matter of what, couple hours.
Couple hours.
Couple
yeah,
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Dane, did you lose power down there? Our house twitched, kind of like flickered the power. We didn't lose it because the computer's on a backup battery system, but we don't know if maybe all the earthquakes that were coming so fast kind of jolted Helco or something. Not enough that we felt anything. You didn't feel anything, did you?
No, I haven't felt anything up here. No,
Nothing up here.
Yeah, it's we have other issues that
Yeah.
are also candidates for
Yeah.
losing connection.
Right. Yeah. All right, we're going to flip this around. You guys can enjoy the show. If you guys got a question, drop it in the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like, hit the drop a comment below, subscribe. It's a big red button. And Dane's saying he's got, nope, just internet. Well, that's the way it works, isn't it? All right, flipping us around. At least they can hear us. That's a good sign. Mic is there. Good blasting sound. And
So, as a first-time visitor, what is different about this night?
So
I'm just curious,
it's hard. So yeah,
because you sounded so excited on YouTube.
it is. This is no.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm buying.
They're just
Some
selling
say
it.
Yeah, this is what we
That's
do.
awesome.
We do this all the time. And
Right.
Most nights in the past, I don't know,
Year.
few months. The eruption's been going almost a year. The anniversary is the 29th of September. So
Okay.
we're like a week away from reaching a 1-year mark of it coming out. And most of these eruptions start with a bang. So you get a lot of activity, a lot of filling at the very, very beginning. And part of that's also because it's filling like an ice cream cone shaped crater. It's like skinny at the bottom and it flares out towards the top, right?
Mhm.
So that early part, it really fills up really fast and it's really dramatic. And it formed a crust over that top
Right.
part. And only one little piece of it was open with lava. And that little piece, as you can
you find
see
my
today,
phone anywhere?
is that very, very
Okay.
center, thickest
Good.
part of white
To the
fume.
Right.
And
there's one
underneath
hiccup
that
that you
area,
can
you might
note
see something
for
like the size of your fingernail from here.
stream.
That will be the
Mhm.
lava
It's
lake
still
size.
this one here.
Got
That's what you typically
Is that the
see.
one that you
So
chose for
everything
this one?
beyond that
Yeah, because
is red.
I was
Oh,
trying
okay.
something. I
Is a
tried
bonus.
pausing and
Which
then
is a
going
lot.
back into
is a
it.
lot.
I
It's a
think
lot.
it's
Did it
quite.
work?
Yeah, it worked.
Absolutely is. Because
Yeah.
we've seen, so the thing is that whole area that you see
Oh,
spots
okay.
right across
You
that,
get
there's lava
it?
underneath
Yeah,
that
well,
entire
that's why
thing.
all the confusion for
280
everybody,
acres
because
is
we're
the
looking
size
at
of
the
that
same
upper crust.
screen.
And there's
Oh.
lava
Right.
underneath.
I mean, same
Thumbnail.
thumbnail.
We're talking about
Yeah.
26 billion gallons is filled in there
Right.
in the last little more than a year.
Oh, it is past our bedtimes up here right now.
So
We are encroaching.
as the time has gone on,
uncharted
like,
territory.
less and less of the ooze flows.
All right, I'm getting some water.
Outside.
All right, Dawn, you're finally
You get,
checking
like,
out.
one
It's got to be
here
what,
or
1
one
a.m.
there
for you?
or one there.
Oh,
Some
here
weeks,
tonight,
some
yeah.
weeks you might get like not that many, and and some nights you might get like one of them. But tonight we have them happening all around, everywhere, even
Thanks
beyond this
for
first cliff in the front. We can't
Correct.
even see
Coming
it. You
along
can see
with
the
this
light of
roller
it
coaster
Yeah.
ride. It was
reflecting
fun.
in certain areas. And if you were to go to the
Presentation
other
was
viewpoint,
nice.
there's one over there. You see the flashlights.
Oh yeah.
That's farther. It's a little bit further walk.
Is that the
Mhm.
Devastation?
That's the Precision Trail that goes to Kanakakoi.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you get a
Thank you,
different
guys.
angle, so you probably can see some of the different flows that we can't quite see from here.
But this close one looks like it's pretty bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
spot where the middle of the crust cracked open, and that hasn't cracked open in 6 months. Right. So that's just showing how big of a
Ooh, there we go.
today. Okay, so we've had pulses that it's kind of filling and it's crusted over, so it's not exactly like a guy, but it's similar kind of thing. It builds up pressure, then it pops open, builds up pressure, pops open, builds up pressure, pops open. And today it kind of stopped entirely, and the whole thing went plop all around. And that hasn't happened in a long, long time. It kind of stabilized about 6 months ago-ish, right? Where it started slowly winding down from having lots of ooze flows all the time everywhere, including in the middle, to just one here, one there, and you know, they're still happening.
Kind of active again.
And
Midnight for you guys. Oh, you guys are used to staying up past midnight. You're all good.
So, and that's all. Not selling it to you, just
Well, so I just swapped screens
actual
because
events that
that's
happen.
in the foreground right
we
there.
have
Let me
no
point
idea.
out.
Cool, but
This
Yeah.
is
Give
cool,
you an
but we
idea.
didn't know. Well, that's why.
It's very cool.
is it a good day or is it?
That's in the
Extra,
foreground.
extra
It's
Oh, it's a good
different from where we're
Yeah.
normally picking up
I don't
activity.
I live here, and I'll put it back to that.
So
Oh, you know,
as
oh,
that
really?
goes up and down, I'll just keep switching the cam in through there.
Yeah, there was a talk earlier also, but I mean,
Oh, that people are saying things are happening.
this is a good reason to be here tonight.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you guys are beneficiaries. Yeah,
It is
it's a blessing.
quite amazing.
Yeah, that's what's really unique. You can come here every night and see something different every night. Come here every year, something different every year.
No, it's great that you guys shoot this too for the public.
I'm already
Yeah,
yawning
it's
too.
easy to come and get hooked and wonder what's it doing now.
I can't believe.
And what's it doing now?
And tomorrow
what's
it'll
it
be
doing
look
now?
different.
Exactly.
Which,
So you guys, where are you guys from?
Yeah, not
California.
California. Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
get back anytime you're wondering. You can just
Your
turn on
camera,
live
go ahead and
stream.
straighten it out if you want.
See, right?
Oh, no, I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'll have a good idea of what I saw from what you're filming.
Yeah.
You guys like this viewpoint?
Is this your viewpoint?
This is the one that is a good compromise, and it's easily accessible. It's not super far. It's not super
Crowded.
but it depends on the time of day. It depends
Well,
on
the person that suggested us
Which
to
one of
do this
y'all?
one said, if you do that one, you're going to be with a bunch of people.
yeah,
and if you do
especially at sunset.
This one, it's going to be pretty.
Yeah. We've often gone over there for the sunrise. It's like a nice spot over there. But yeah, it can get very crowded.
you
in
like?
the
You
evenings,
want the
so
big
I've
pool?
not had success in
That's what I'm on right now. See if you can watch for anything kind of
Still trying to find the
gurgling.
which leg is
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
loose.
Remember, you're tied into the system.
Yeah,
here.
I'm. One of the legs are loose.
Well, thank you for that
Trying
bit
to-
of education.
These guys are streaming on YouTube under Two Pineapples.
Two
I
pineapples.
have to
Okay.
turn this
Yeah,
light on.
and I'm
The
with
leg's
a group
not-
called Hawaii Tracker.
Look,
Hawaii
look where you're at.
tracker,
You're up top.
We have a Facebook group.
There you
that's-
go.
That's where most
Look
people
where
on
I'm
the island
at.
follow
I'm
us, but we also have
No,
Thank
I'm
you
saying it
very
was
much.
up on the ledge.
Hawaii
Hmm.
Pod and POD. But if you find these guys, you can probably find us through them too.
Yep. If you find us, go into our description underneath any of the videos, and you'll see their link right
Okay.
there.
You tag
Right.
everyone.
Yeah, so these guys are doing, like, they're shooting all this stuff all the time, and we'll do more like a summary analysis,
Mhm.
do more of the science and what
What it all means.
meters and like,
Yeah.
what it's doing, and like more of the trying to understand.
Well, we did a
it.
hike today with a ranger,
Mhm.
and it was fascinating. We went up to this. What was that point? Not Pele, the other, the Mauna. What's the point that we went up? Can't remember. But he took us, and we were going over lava fields. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic landscape.
That'll look very different in 10,000 years.
Absolutely.
And it
yeah,
could
yeah.
look different in 10.
It could.
It does, right?
If something
Yeah.
blows, it changes.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I tell people all the time is that, I mean, as a geologist, this is unique that you actually get to see the geology happening in your lifetime. Most geologists have to imagine this mountain crumbling to sand and forming a beach, or that sand like sitting there long enough to hurt people.
Getting anywhere?
Or those
No,
kind of
just
things.
look at this.
You have to imagine.
We'll turn the light on.
So this island is very a great portion of it.
Depending on your point of view, right?
Well, I meant there. I mean, you can't
Because
grow
it's
anything
overlapped
over
to
here.
that leg.
You know, not in the main center of activity, certainly.
Well, even we did this crater drive. I mean, that's pretty
That area,
moonscapey, desolate.
yes. But that area was farmed by the native Hawaiians. right?
Dane,
And
remind me
done in a
about
very
that,
deliberate ways,
about cards.
because there are,
We
you know,
need to talk
it's
about
not
that.
easy, as you say, it's certainly not easy.
No.
But for
Make a
people
note.
that had come here and had no connection to it, there's no.
If you guys are just joining us, thank you so much. It's been a fun evening. A lot of things going on tonight. It was a huge test night of a lot of things happening. Inside, outside, mobile. Sorry if it was a little confusing because we're bouncing all around trying to work out some details. And that way when something big is going on, we are all working together and can make it look smoother than maybe it looked. But we are live in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park for Two Pineapples, Lou and Anna. And we're up here with Philip Ong, and Dane is trickling through there with Hawaii Tracker and Hawaii Pod. He joined Hawaii Pod, Hawaii Tracker for their show during the art presentation in the auditorium. Thank you very much. It was really cool.
Okay, so it's
I even got a question in.
okay.
I don't know if Dane, if you still had it on, but I asked a question.
Everyone went to cities, like happening in every place in the world. When like moving from so all of that is
Has changed.
embedded.
Right.
But it used to, and no one is farming it now.
But
In
you
that
used
way.
to could have.
But Native Hawaiians did do that for subsistence and survival, absolutely.
I did not realize that. They don't talk about that.
There's one trail at the coast called the Pu'uloa Petroglyph Trail. That
Yes.
you walk out there. There's a little display on the way in the middle of that bare waffle that talks about how they farmed right there.
Huh. Well, there was an oasis of palm trees out of the, at the end, the seawall. Yeah. If you looked, if you're facing the other, there was. I said, I wonder what this oasis is. It looks like just.
We
these
do
palm
have some
trees are
wind
stuck
blowing,
right in
as
the
you can
middle of
see.
the world out here.
A little bit of shaky in the camera.
A lot of times,
Not everything is 100% set up because it was all set up quick. Normally, I'm used to setting up in the dark, but there were a lot of people here when we walked. Well, not a lot. There's probably 15 or 20 when we walked up. So sitting up to the side was a little different. And then we picked up, and Phil picked up everything and moved to the left to get where we're at. And so we just now kind of, I think, got everything locked down.
Does take an attitude to consult with the Council of Native Hawaiian Elders of the area. They don't have to. They're not required by law, but they do.
But
because
they do.
knew that that's what it takes to be a good steward of neighborhood.
Right, neighbor, right.
Right, and really, they're the experts of this land for way longer than the U.S. government.
Oh.
Here.
I just swapped over this USGS report.
Stupid, perhaps,
Well,
to
bummer,
not
you missed
consult
my
with them
question.
about what you should be doing and how you should be doing it and how it used to be done before. And
We're gonna
they can inform
hit the
all
record
those
button
stories,
because
all
I
the
see
histories,
something
and
going
why the
on
places
down
are
there.
the way they are, and like all those things. And you absolutely need them. And so the park really has recognized this for many
Oh,
years
well, that's
now. And
good.
has worked collaboratively, and it really is a good thing. It gives a chance for Native Hawaiians to immerse themselves in a landscape and a culture that is hard to find out.
So you can guys see in the foreground, that's what keeps opening up. What are we at? 8 to 12 minutes in between right now. I think if my number's about right.
A few times as a younger person and didn't really.
Looks and sounds great. Thanks, Ed.
Wasn't, I guess, really interested in the connection between.
If we missed saying hi to you, apologize. Come back in, say hi.
Polynesian culture.
Please.
And I think that this trip has really kind of,
And while you're doing that, hit that thumbs up.
promoted me to, Google a lot of those things.
And it's fascinating because
I didn't know there was 136 islands. I had no idea. I don't think the mainlanders really, the majority of the mainlanders do not know.
Just came in.
We just don't
And now
have any.
you're gonna.
We don't
There we
get
go.
any of
I
that.
say just come in and say hello, and you throw me up with
I
that.
had no idea.
Here we go. Ready? Zwinjang.
not until that
Where's my wife? She could help me with the pronunciation on that one. Where you at?
Kind of
Yeah.
effort to do anything, conserve it in the first place. Let's just talk about it. So we're taking steps in the right direction.
I do know I'm a private college consultant, and I do know that in my work there's a very huge box that needs to be checked for native Hawaiian or native Polynesian registered, citizens on college campuses on the mainland. They're very interested in that. That was kind of my first to the
How you doing?
differences, because once again,
You got it
we
under
don't
control?
really hear a lot about it.
It's really interesting because in some ways, the separation does allow you to kind of be in your own little sandbox and
I would
try things out,
the
right?
whole
So like,
time.
it's actually pretty common to have Hawaiians get protocol when they go enter a place. and
Well,
ask
I
permission.
also-
That's actually well
I also
pronounced.
think
Oh, right on.
it's kind of a benefit for Hawaiians that we are not in your backyard. We're not living up your tushies. We don't, I mean, really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's probably some positives in that.
And negatives, of course, but yeah, there's
Well, there is positive, right.
and especially on a kind of preserving your cultural identity.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
creating a space that the culture can survive and thrive, and I would like to see it evolve, right, into not be considered stagnant, but actually still living and changing.
But I Googled, they said in the public school system, they teach a basic level of the Hawaiian language. They don't teach really the language. They teach a basic, you know, very, very basic level.
Yeah, it's true, and it's hard to.
So are they making these kids take Spanish?
So my kid is in the Volcano school that's like 2 miles from here.
Okay, and what does he take?
And their foreign language is Japanese.
Okay, well that okay, I like that better than Spanish.
But they every morning chant in Hawaiian.
Okay.
Hawaiian it's a Hawaiian, it's not an immersion school, but it certainly incorporates Hawaiian cultural elements every possible step of the way.
Well, that's good.
And so it's hard to know to call it. The kids aren't going to come out fluent Hawaiian. That's very difficult to do.
Correct.
Especially when it's not integrated. In fact, like the University of Hawaii Hilo is the first indigenous language PhD program in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But that's, which is great, but that's just to show you that there's only one, shows you how far we still need to go in the whole process, right? So.
And are you native?
I'm not. I'm an import. Yeah.
From?
Well, I was born in Brazil, and I've lived in Europe, and I went to school in North Carolina and Chapel Hill.
Okay, so
and
you're
master's in Michigan. I'm all over the place.
Got it.
Yeah, but this is where I've been for the last almost 20 years now. And look at how it's evolved. It looks like a different. It's like
actually
watching a campfire.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool. The clouds have come in.
So now you're just trying to sell it.
Well,
I'm trying to sell it, yeah.
It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I've been here. You're right. I've been here for 20 minutes. It's
Yep.
like, oh, shit,
See what happens?
Shit changes.
See what happens?
Yeah, it's addictive.
I mean, I think this is kind of cool, but I think
don't take as good pictures as you.
the conversation
No,
we're
they
having is more cool.
Yeah, no, see,
about
it does.
how,
I'll take a look here. I got it on full screen.
Oh, yeah.
you know, to keep the culture embedded in this population, I think is
It's really fascinating. I mean,
Even though actually
I'm not an expert. I'm curious
except
about
you do
it.
see
I'm
that,
curious for my friends to talk more about it.
Ellen.
I keep asking questions.
Ellen,
whenever I
come and
was,
look at the.
the big event we had in 2018.
Yeah.
That's actually cool. No, this you can actually see the lava.
Oh.
Spattering, yeah, it's actually.
Spattering.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we can't see that from here.
Wow, got better than my iPhone
Hell
13.
yeah. Nice.
So we're on an 8 to 12 minute cycle right now with that foreground doing this.
And you're out here how many times?
2, 3 times a week, depends on what's going on.
So
weather.
where were you in 2018?
I was here.
And was it
I
crazy?
live about 20 minutes from here. Yeah. When our oldest was graduating high school and we didn't know what was going to happen.
I mean,
so.
I think that would have been a crazy time to be in this area.
No, not this area.
Well,
Up here wasn't bad at all. It was down below.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it wiped out a community, right?
Yeah.
Several.
But no one died, they said.
No, but it's far worse with all the damage of losing homes. And
Right.
You're losing people lost everything.
And you could say no one died of lava.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they're right.
But they lost their
Lost
livelihood.
everything. They lost everything.
People took their own lives.
Yeah.
It's really
As a
cool.
result, right? Because there's nothing there
Left.
wasn't- not even a response they could deal with during, also is
People are
get
still
my
awake
stuff
looking at
there was
this.
without a
someone who
tripod.
Yeah, because
went for a hike and went missing.
the planet
Well,
never sleeps.
we don't count any of those
Right, so
people.
we're in the east
Mm.
coast, the west
Officially,
coast of the U.S.
right.
is
Right, because
going to
that would
sleep.
make
It's
it look
like right
bad.
now it's a little after
Right.
midnight.
And
Yeah.
The east
we
coast
don't-
is already
and we don't count
sacked out,
Right, right.
but Europe's
the
waking up.
dozens of pets
Australia is
Oh,
in the
so
middle
they're
of their
like,
day.
oh, and they're into this too.
Oh,
did
yeah.
not have a chance to be
So we
evacuated
can,
because
Oh.
depending on
because of
normally we film
mismanagement.
from 3 a.m. on.
Right.
So we're
I just
catching.
can't
The
imagine.
process.
3
That
a.m.
was
here?
the
Yeah.
most terrible part. So people
We'll sit up
maybe
here
didn't die,
between
but
3
they
and
were
4.
put
How
through
come
a
you're so
living
early?
hell.
because we were filming in the
The suffering
auditorium
that people
presentation for the
endured.
park.
Was preventable.
Got it.
And this was going on, so we
Because of
came
this
out here.
mismanagement is why
Wait,
we
and
still
caught
do
some
this
stuff.
work and why we
Yeah,
still do
'cause this
education
So
keeps
what
going
do you
on.
do here?
Right.
Oh,
So I
that-
work with a nonprofit.
That's
Got it.
yeah.
Volcano education,
Really?
with the point being
Oh, very
better
cool.
preparedness and
Mhm.
better disaster response ultimately.
And I
Because
need my
we
glasses because that
we
looks
saw how that
blurry.
happened. We need to do better, and we're not going to forget, and we're not going to let our county officials get away with patting
Very
themselves on the back and saying everything went great and that's what we should do every time.
Well, the
No, absolutely not.
the gentleman, the ranger that took us out this afternoon on
Oh,
this
wow.
hike, when I asked him how did they evacuate? He said, oh, they had about a week's warning and they got everybody out. No one died from the eruption, I guess,
Yeah.
is what he's referring to.
So,
The aftermath, obviously, is a different story.
so we knew the volcano was doing something about a month ahead.
That's what they.
As far as like it was showing pressure, showing pressure here. and
Is that
they
the
started
lake?
erupting
No,
all
dude,
through
that
the
is not
Right.
the lake.
for
I'm gonna
past
pan
4
out
weeks.
for you so you
It
can
was
get
not
an idea.
showing
That's that
anything.
foreground
We're actually trying to
ooze
go around and destroy the neighborhood until like a couple days before it actually did that.
Oh,
the lake.
really?
Okay. So we knew
Wait,
something was
someone
going to happen.
specifically
we didn't know
asked
what,
you to
we didn't know
pan
where,
out?
we didn't know
Yeah,
when,
they're
we
asking
didn't know how.
about what the
But we were
location
on
is
high
Oh,
alert.
really?
of that.
Once we saw
So,
the progression,
Up on the
move
top
towards that
screen
area,
is the main lake.
that was
You can
about-
see
it was 4 days.
this
Yeah, he said it
was
overflow
about
right here is
5
in the
days
lower
before.
It was 4
top of
days
the
from the
picture-in-picture
collapse of
screen.
Google,
Okay.
and a lot of people, some were different who hadn't been before.
The
So it's
estate
right in
area,
here.
Yeah, yeah.
Move
We're watching
something
that
with
back.
estates.
Melania Estates is where it came
But
up
people
on
are-
May 3rd. Right?
Well, on the live stream are
And
asking
before
you,
there was a
where
big
is that?
earthquake that really,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
was the second
so it's all
conscious
interactive.
It's
So
interactive.
this one
That's
collapsed,
awesome.
and that's what really led to the
Got like a whole
scale of
audience. That's
eruption.
very
Did
cool.
they close the park
Same
at
people
that
all the
point?
time? Or-
No,
It was
no.
closed.
Thousands
because
of
of the
different
collapses
people
that
all the
we
time.
Right, I mean, they
Mhm.
can't.
We have a
you
good-
can't have people
A good family
wandering
that's
around
always
here.
in watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always looking forward to
So,
it.
but the
Support
park
us.
probably closed.
But we get
I forget
out
the exact day,
and
it's
the planet
May
picks up on it.
6th or
That's
something,
awesome.
A couple days afterwards, because the eruption began, and then it started
Huh.
to drain, and after it drained, it
Yeah,
started
right
to
there.
collapse, and that's what happened. Right, but down there, the way sequences of eruptions
bummed
begin
out.
is
I know, I
Pressing my
bet.
tripod.
Whatever's
I'm
been
It
sitting
very,
around
very
for
upset.
since the last eruptions will get flushed out first.
And I don't know
That
if that
stuff is still
little
lava,
one's
which means it's
strong
like
enough
rock,
to
it's
hold
still
that
hot,
monster
it's
on
gassy.
there.
Well, I
It's
just
not
need
nearly
a
as
few
hot or
minutes.
fluid or
Mhm.
gassy as
If I
news
can get a
that
few
comes out.
minutes of a
Next.
clip, I'll be happy.
So in
But
practicality,
if I
that first
don't
lava
get
came out,
nothing, I'm
only
going home very
travels
upset.
as far as like 20 feet or 30 feet from the
You know?
crater.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is.
In comparison to later, it went 8 miles.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh, okay.
So like that first phase, that's when you have to evacuate.
Yes.
Okay? That's
I'm
when
gonna
they
say-
closed the neighborhood. People who left were not allowed back in to go and get their possessions, so they had one car of possessions to get out, and people chose their human family, of course. Right? They had to leave behind their pets
Hang
and
on.
belongings. Even if they're all packed in boxes, they had to listen to them burn down because of the mismanagement by the government. Like, that's what really gets to us.
That's how it's changed.
So, and then they're like,
Oh,
okay,
I
that's
have
placards
to get
going out.
this.
And the National Guard was called. The National Guard acted as guards. People could not go back
To
to
go
their
back
houses.
Couldn't go back in.
Right? They did not help a single person evacuate. Not a single person evacuate. That was a community-driven effort. We were there with pickup trucks and doing everything ourselves because no one else was doing it. It was left to the people to do that, and that's great that people can bond together and come together, and the community is much stronger because of it. Every community goes through disaster. That's the case, whether it's New York or New Orleans, and that's the case everywhere.
Yeah, but the government help could have been
But
helpful.
that's what they're for, right?
Yeah.
And instead they're like, you guys can't come in here, can't get your stuff, and it's illegal to take pictures of lava. So they started taking people's cameras,
Oh my God.
which is illegal, unconstitutional. And later we had to undo all that, right? And, drop all the charges and all that. But at the time, they're still enforcing what comes down to martial law. Right? So that was really
Did they
really came
impose
down
a
to it.
martial law?
They didn't impose it, but like the rules being put in place were
were very similar.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't can't imagine being in this area
So-
during that time.
And the challenge really is that it lasts so long. It's not like a fire. It doesn't come and go. It's just like it's going and it's still going and it's still going. And a month later it's still going. And 2 months later it's still going. 3 months later it's still off.
I mean,
As bad as a wildfire is, at least it comes and goes and that's that. And you know, and after that you can see what's left and you know.
how
where's
many
the
people were
afterflow.
affected by this?
In that area? I think 2,000 people
Yeah.
who live in that area. But really, like the whole state was affected.
Right,
Right?
right.
The fog, the gas that comes out of the ground, volcanic gas, we call it volcanic smog, fog. And it's very similar to smog, but it's actually just volcanically created. That volcano, that vent was putting out in excess of 200,000 tons.
we were going to
of
use this
CO2
to
per
stream.
day.
So there's a whole different
And I
level
was
here.
pushing all kinds of buttons.
Yeah, most polluted
My
factories
settings
in the
is all
last
messed
10
up.
years put out
I'm
about
just
150 tons per year in 1 year.
So how did
200,000
You're a mess.
per day,
So-
3 months.
how did people protect themselves from that?
You have to be indoors. I had friends that had to move to the mainland because they couldn't be outdoors. Like, you know, in Hawaii, people don't always have houses that are fully enclosed. So, like, you just, too bad. Go indoors or go somewhere that has an indoors. Their outdoor schools had to close entirely because you couldn't be outdoors. Right?
I
So-
don't remember hearing about that.
Yeah, because it's a lot of it didn't make mainland news, and what made mainland news was often not accurate, unfortunately, right?
I just remember them like going on and on about this eruption and they were
The
closing
first
down.
headline on CNN said it was on Oahu. Right? And people canceled their trips to Hawaii, to Oahu, to
Right.
Hawaii,
Right.
to Kona. We had $700 million of lost income in the economy from cancellations because of fake news. Right?
Interesting.
So it was a lot about that needs to be better.
Mismanaged.
Right? And so, ultimate goal is to keep education about volcanoes going, so that next time it happens, we're not all just scrambling and not knowing what's going on. We can all help each other educate. Because Kilauea is our Goldilocks volcano. She's big enough,
Anybody still on it?
energetic enough to be interesting. and she's
Ed's
showing
asking, you pushing
a
buttons
lot of
again?
action. But she's
Ed,
not
she's
in
over there
her
struggling
prime.
with her
She's not
camera.
full-grown. The
She doesn't
full-grown
have her
volcano is
tripod
that
with
one,
her.
Mauna
I
Loa.
made her change all
That's where I
her
was
settings.
today.
Biggest
She's a
volcano
mess.
on the entire planet Earth.
I'm not a mess. I'm very upset.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's very upset.
No tourism going
She
on.
passed
It's
the mess and went
like
straight to
you're
upset.
at work, you're prepared because you have hours possibly. And the
I'm
southwest area,
pretty
lava's gone from
upset.
1,000 feet to the coast in 3 hours. That would cut
'Cause
off the Belt Road. It would cut off.
I wanted that shot earlier where it was bubbling in the front pond. Now it's
Before it
gone.
happens,
You're
it's
gonna
too
be
late.
you're screwed, right?
It's too late. Right? And that's the one we worry about the most. Right? Kilauea
Interesting.
is like most of being a national park, and you know, and it's true. Mauna Loa is still big. Most eruptions are not going to go towards people. Right? Everyone's going to freak out. Guarantee that. Because it hasn't erupted since 1984, and that was before there was
This
even
is
internet.
pointless. I'm just gonna
In the
Okay, so like
wait
when
for
that
the
thing
next
erupts,
one.
guess what
Yep.
in the world erupts? That's
I
6
can't even
minutes.
whole buzz.
Oh,
can't even
wrong.
focus on.
Army of
Starting
people
now.
who know what is
What?
going on ahead of time. It's
What?
going to be chaos.
Who's up in the
Because we know how the ground works. We've
Yeah,
been
we don't know anything about any of it on the moon. It's like a life.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Okay, pause.
That's why I've been kind of interested in googling a lot of this. Like, why even putting not in a negative way, just why? I mean, we don't even know anything that's going on. We know shit that's going on in Texas. Well, very interesting, you guys. So you're what's your organization?
Hawaii Tracker.
Hawaii Tracker, and you're
Two pineapples.
two
pineapples,
pineapple.
yep.
Okay,
Cool.
I
We'll
got
check
it.
Out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good talking to you guys.
good talking. It's very, very educational. It was great.
Yeah.
This is the most I've learned in a week.
Yeah. Great view too.
Yeah, great view.
We caught a good night. Apparently.
You got a good night.
It's putting on a good show.
Oh yeah. There it is. My numbers are a little off. I was 4 minutes away.
And this,
12.
and this can, and when was the
That's
last?
crazy.
I mean, that it's still erupting like this. Isn't that kind of weird after all
No.
this time?
Completely normal.
Okay.
The magma and the earth has to go somewhere.
I guess so.
Just decided to come out of here for a long time.
For a long time.
So what's the estimated amount of magma in the reservoir down there?
In the reservoir entirely?
Yeah.
Probably infant. I have no
Yeah, I mean,
idea.
it depends where do you find the edge of it, right?
Right? Yeah, where's the
Infinity?
edge?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, forever and ever.
Infinity
Didn't
and
they do a
beyond.
movie about that,
Yeah.
Jim, the center of the earth? You guys aren't old enough for that.
No.
Oh, I'm
Have a
not
good
old enough
night.
for that.
Good luck. Good.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Right.
De hecho, el señor que tiene la cámara es de una organización.
So you got something to pour down.
No creo que haya.
8 minutes in between. So we'll calm down. Hey, hey.
De hecho, de cariño le dicen Chepina. Chepina por...
Lo siento. Por eso la gente odia los escándalos.
And this is spot in the foreground right there?
Yeah, right there. Mm-hmm. And, I'm gonna picture.
Take a picture of the camera.
Of the camera or the screen?
Of the screen.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let me change spots with you. Let me jump over here and I can. I don't want to miss that.
Pregúntale si vio la explosión. Did you see the explosion?
There, no.
No, que no, Pachi.
I don't think there was an explosion.
Oh,
Was there an
okay.
explosion today?
No, it more like it all oozed up together all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
okay.
much brighter everywhere, and it's still really good now. But
Okay.
all the spots that you see, like little small spots, but have been
Okay.
bigger spots.
Ah, okay. Dice que realmente no, ay, sorry. Dice que realmente no hubo explosión per se, sino como que las zonas que estaban rojas, o sea, las zonas que están rojitas ahorita, simplemente serían más grandes. Sería
So it's
como
interesting
más
about this
macro
spot
por
that's on the camera there with the
Right.
little flare out. That, to me, looks like it's on this side of that central island.
It sure does, doesn't it?
So it looks like it's in the middle of
That's
the
why,
crust.
you know what? Yep, because I was looking at it when it was lit up. You can kind of see the wall
Behind
of that.
it.
Yeah, behind it, and
Of
that's that island.
Central island, yeah.
Yep.
So there's been that spot that's on that east side of the island we've seen glowing on the webcams for a while.
Yep.
It's kind of glowing and glowing, and
Not doing anything, just
probably been
glowing.
about 6 months, and it put out a little pad of lava. But it looks like it put out a pad of lava now, clearly, and that pad of lava is sitting there bubbling and,
Yep.
and overturning, and
Sí, que como que está
interesting to see.
hirviendo, como
So
calderita.
that extra burst today really flushed open that little exit point.
Ay, no, estaría genial, ¿te imaginas? Sí te da tiempo de correr. No, no creo. ¿No? ¿De verdad no crees? No. ¿Estamos muy cerca?
I was trying to have some of those chats like on the camera so you guys can benefit from the discussion
Okay.
here sometimes.
Yeah,
Not
it's
quite
always
so
good.
close.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Sí. De hecho, hay
Yeah, now you can see the wall. Can you see
Right
that wall in the
behind it,
back there? Right? Would you
Yeah.
say that's the island in the background?
Yeah, I think that's the back. Yeah, exactly.
So there's a good question. So we're looking at this splattering, right? And you got that wall back there, and that wall height. What do you think? 30, 50 feet? This is probably splattering 15 to 20, and you have
Right.
another 20 up,
Yeah, I'd
Some
say
60 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to say exactly because we knew a height for that thing at one point, but the bottom parts have been flooded
Right.
and covered. And I don't remember looking at this side of it as much to know how much that
But I
thing's
can
filled
definitely,
in.
it's so clear right there in the back. You can definitely
Yeah.
make it out now.
de 15 a 20 electrónicos.
Yes, that's one of the more notable things just off the top of my head there. Having looked at all these last year of thermal time lapses and
Right.
studying, when these visits are coming up, and It's been about 6 months since we haven't used up from that spot in the middle.
Absolutely.
And that thing's been glowing, but it actually hasn't put out lava in that spot.
Que no había estado brillando nada, o sea, no se había estado viendo nada.
Yeah, that's the
Pero
Pig
creo que
Island. Yeah, that's
las
Central
cámaras
Island, the Pig Island.
midiendo el calor, estaban detectando que había más
Never
cantidad
quite
de
know what to call it,
magma en la base.
There it is.
There have been some good names, but Pig Island is perhaps more memorable.
All right, so mark your clock, 21:39, 8 to 12 minutes. See where we're at. Aurelio, I have no idea.
Pues no sé qué, pero como que es mejor.
Sometimes I get so lost just staring here, I forget to look downstream.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
Como que hubo un movimiento.
Oh yeah. There we go. It'll go out of focus on me now, right there.
Como que brilla.
That's still on the edge of that
Ajá, que está
of
así.
Pig
Yeah.
Island.
Yeah.
Que ahora sí está como en el borde.
So it's like there's a little rock in the foreground there. So it's kind of that same low spot behind there.
Mm-hmm.
It's connected. It's just
Dice,
a
aún
little
tiene
different edge
como
of it.
parte de esa barrera que no ha roto el magma. O sea que la piedra todavía se mantiene ahí como reteniendo la cantidad de magma. Pero realmente yo no veo nada.
I hate to leave, but missed it. All right, Ed, take it easy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Aloha, Ed.
Wonder if the island might sink now that it has a few holes in it. I don't think it's gonna sink. But remember, I'm not the professional here.
It's interesting. There's more crack, right? There's clearly a path through it. But
Yeah.
That same spot is when we saw a couple of them before. I mean, it's not that far from when this eruption first began, almost a year ago. That fissure came up through the bottom of that, the central, right across the middle of the floor of that crested crater, right?
Right.
And it was not far from that exact spot you're looking at right there, where you had those fountains shooting up through the lake before
Como que
that
hablan
first
de
phase
una
crested all the way
explosión
over.
previa y que había como un lago y que realmente no es lejos de
But
donde ahorita
at its,
está
at
haciendo
its
esta
very core, whatever that light floaty stuff is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presumably that pumice-like material, the reticulite that's coated
Mm-hmm.
coated in the initial lava flow. It's kind of like a nougat center in there or something. It's kind of keeping
La
it floaty.
realidad es que si tienes que tomar un
That's going to be
minuto
hard to overcome.
para decir a qué distancia
So
estoy.
what we have seen happen is that
Exacto,
as that central part of the crust is a smaller and smaller percentage of the whole floor of the crater, that outer edge that's like a moat has been filling up, normally kind of bottom up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been lapping onto that island from the sides and covering the bottom edges of it. And it seems like the more the outside edges pull down in the middle, then it's going to deform it a little bit there, yeah.
To that one side of the island or the whole island?
So we've seen the island become visually apparently shorter because the bottom parts are getting covered by the flows from the outside
Right,
ooze-ups,
right.
Mm-hmm. And as those flows and the outside ooze-ups start lapping onto the island, they're making those outside edges a little heavier and holding them in more. So the middle part is still the most loose, and I suppose you could see some cracking or something like that. It could do something funny like that, where it's trying to rise, right? Because what we're seeing from the evidence today is that perhaps you have enough lava built up over the vent, over this whole area, that you can have a blockage occur that then causes it to kind of swell back up and pop back up, right? And we haven't seen a blockage so far yet.
No, yeah, we haven't. Here we are.
And we know that the last pulse of this eruption, that was December 2020 to May 2021, ended because the vent was drowned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it drowned itself out.
Drowned itself out.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it became too much above it. It couldn't come up through it anymore, and it stopped. So that's the question here. Could we be seeing that? A sign of that beginning to happen? Is it getting enough to
Saying that it might have drowned out in one spot and then forced it out into another?
Well, possibly even the same spot. Like there was so much stuff piled above that vent that it just couldn't get out as easy. So it was able to, whether it was backflowing or whether some piece of rock actually dislodged and blocked it. But there's enough stuff above it. There's enough material above it, weight above it, that it has to push up and through to get out.
Right.
That if you're more right by the tipping point now, and maybe it's not always out, and suddenly you switch to, oh, we're gonna go in for a couple hours. Oh, now we're out again. And that's the first time we've seen that. So that's interesting.
It's pretty exciting to see it move over here.
Ok, tarde media hora para sacar esta preciosa. ¿Ya viste la nube? Bueno, casi, ¿y la concha?
Aquí se ve como borbotea.
¿A poco sí? En la camarita de
Aurelio's asking, ask Phil, estimated temperature on lava. Celsius for the European.
Celsius. All right. So when it comes out, it's been measured. So ballpark, it's 1,200 degrees, 1,200 degrees Celsius. Right. It's been measured between, we'll call it 1,170 to 1,190. Like there's a kind of range. And geologists really care if it's 5 degrees more or less even in that little range because they behave slightly differently. But for example, they've measured it in the lava lake at say 1185.
Right.
And during the Pu'o'o days, when it was going out through the rift zone, out the Pu'o'o, down to the lava tube to the ocean, they'd measured it down before it got into the ocean at like 1160. So it could transport a long, long way without losing a whole lot of temperature.
Right.
Right. If it's insulated within its lava tube, especially. Right. So when you see it turning that kind of silvery color, you're probably dropping down to 600-700 degrees Celsius in that range to start forming that little bit of solid. And so it really depends on really what particular spot are you looking at. If the spot's open and red and bubbling, then you're probably closer to that 1,200, 1190. If it's that skin, you're probably down to 600, 700 degrees or so. And obviously, everything in between.
Sure.
And the higher, the closer you are to the surface itself, the hotter it is. And so above the surface, you also have this whole gradient where it gets cooler and cooler and cooler. So if you actually are standing near lava flow, in the old days, like in Kalapana, when you wouldn't have to be standing over 1,200 feet of lava, I wouldn't go down there right now necessarily, right?
Yeah, right.
But in the old days, you could
No es ceniza.
so the temperature of the lava there. You could actually be standing on lava that's close to liquid at your feet, right? So your shoes might be melting, but by the height of your head, your head's not burning away at the same time, right? Like it might be like 200 degrees at your head and like 600 at your feet.
So it's changing
It's
several hundred degrees in a matter of feet.
Yeah, exactly.
3 to 4 feet.
The heat is flying away and it's dispersing very quickly. So it can be very localized, yeah. And I remember there was a time when I was like by a skylight, like these holes in lava tube back in the old days, and then you kind of just look in and see the river flowing underground, and ideally you really want to make sure that you're standing at a point at this thing, because when the wind changes and that heat blows right across you, it's like instantly all your eyebrows are all
toasted,
and you have like little droplets of eyeball hair. Like,
no way.
Or not eyebrow, right? Your eyebrows are like droplets.
Buzzed up.
Having facial hair, same thing.
Gone.
Yeah. Feels like you got a sunburn just from the heat.
Just the heat.
Radiation,
right?
Right, like the heat radiation in your face. So.
Sorry, can I ask you something?
Sure.
I don't know anything about volcanoes, sorry. That seems cloud. Is that ashes? Or what is it?
The cloud?
Yeah.
It's gas that is a combination of water vapor and sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, mostly. And there's lots of other little things in there as well. So there are things like dissolved metals and just things like arsenic and gold and silver that come out in tiny, tiny, tiny amounts that you don't want to be breathing that stuff. But mostly it's water vapor, sulfur dioxide, and carbon dioxide.
We live in Mexico near to a volcano.
Which one?
And it's also an active volcano.
Which volcano?
It names Popocatépetl.
Popocatépetl, yes.
Yeah.
Popo.
Yeah, so, and not every day, but some days it like take out ashes.
Yes.
And the air became quite dirty.
Yes.
Why not here?
We have a different kind of lava.
9 minutes, by the way.
Different kinds of volcanoes in the world. And mostly two different kinds. There's a kind that you have, like Popo, that is the magma, the lava is thicker.
Okay.
And the difference means that because the magma is thicker, the gases, they don't just bubble out all the time.
Okay.
Popo doesn't just have gas going. It goes
Yeah,
like
no.
poof,
Yes, exactly.
poof, poof, one after another. Because it holds the gas, then there's enough pressure that poof.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I
And
release
ours
that.
is so fluid, it's just like all the time it's letting it go. All the time it's letting it go. So you have small little pieces of lava and things that are getting thrown, but they're not going to get thrown up nearly as high.
Whoa,
because
it's going off. Check that out.
poofing as much.
We got a triple going on.
Sometimes this volcano can do that if you have a big earthquake.
Look at that.
The lava and the water come together, for example. You have a whole lot of
There's
water
a
comes
bubbling.
into a whole bunch of steam, then you can
Kill
poof
this.
and you can have big ash coming in.
Here.
Okay, okay.
But that's not what's happening now.
Yeah.
It's less usual. This volcano goes through times where it does do that more often, but the last time was several hundred years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
but in 2018, they tell me that this was another area quite different, and you can see it from different points. So what happened? It destroyed what?
yeah, so it's hard to tell from the landscape now, but
Right.
Below us there's we're next to a big cliff.
Yes.
And the whole floor of the crater here
Okay,
goes out halfway across, and then it goes in another big hole.
okay.
And before, this floor went all the way across. And so
okay.
where the lava is inside now, in that hole formed in 2018.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and that formed because the lava that had been here, building underground, and also in the lava lake at the surface, went back underground through the volcano and came out
Oh,
in a place called Leilani Estates,
okay.
maybe 20 miles away.
Dude, take it easy. I see you're bailing. Have a good night.
Quite
So that's why
8.5, 8
collapsed
minutes,
and the
2.5
destruction was
right here.
all
Huh?
Not here,
Over there.
over there.
Didn't feel nothing.
Because this was collapsing, there wasn't ash, but in this case,
All right,
it
looks
wasn't
like we're
ash
settling
from the
down.
lava, it was ash from
21:50.
the walls falling.
Somebody start the timer.
The walls falling
I'm
in.
guessing between 8 and
Because
12
at the
minutes. That's
center,
what we've been
the
running
floor
in
dropped
between.
500 meters. 500 meters the floor dropped.
En el
In
2018,
3
Yeah,
months.
they cold
500
down.
metros se destruyó hacia el fondo. Se comió
Oh,
las paredes.
that's right. No, I'm not ready for
3
that.
months.
I'm gonna wait
62
till-
different dropping events. Each one 10 meters. Every day magnitude 5.2 earthquake.
Whoa.
Every day.
Did you
10
feel it?
meters. Everyone felt it.
Mhm.
Those are the big ones. If you count all the earthquakes.
All right,
in
don't
3
start the
months,
timer yet because it's still going.
70,000 earthquakes in this area.
7,000 terremotos. Bueno,
70.
temblores.
70,000.
17?
70.
Ah, sí, 70, 70, 70.
70.
Sorry. Okay. 70.
Look at, you can
Yes.
definitely see the wall from Pig Island right there. Check that out.
Entonces
It's right
hizo
there on that
erupción,
wall.
se comió las paredes,
Ajá,
y
pero-
salió por otro
Isn't that
lado.
crazy?
Salió por un tubo de lava que salió de aquel lado, por eso la destrucción
Goulash.
es de este lado. Ajá, no en esta zona per se. Bueno, nada, que de todas maneras que las paredes hayan caído todos esos metros significó.
Es un espectáculo de los que
Y dice que hay diferentes tipos de lava. Esta, por ejemplo, es una lava mucho más fluida, como más líquida, que la que tiene, por ejemplo, el Popo,
Pretty steady.
que es una lava como más espesa. Entonces,
Se hace como concreto y explota, es lo que decía Vic.
se tapa y hace pum, se tapa y
Ajá.
hace pum.
es exactamente, pero
We brought
es
water,
por
no
el
coffee.
tema del tipo de lava, hace que los gases que tenga no sean tan fluidos, espera como que retiene lo suficiente hasta que se libera y es cuando suelta las diferentes cenizas. Y que esta principalmente es vapor, o sea que sí tiene minerales, que sí tiene dióxido, que sí tiene hasta partículas pequeñitas de metales, oro, así como diferentes cositas, pero en realidad la mayor cantidad de cosas es vapor de agua. Y como es muy continuo, pues no llega ni siquiera, o sea, no se ve como en el Popo que tiene mucha elevación y lo ves desde muy lejos, ¿no? Sino que es como continuo. Y que de hecho en el 2018 tampoco
All right,
fue
start
una
the clock.
cosa como
Where are we
¿no?
at?
Sino fueron
21:52.
como pequeños terremotos que fueron pasando y se fue abriendo el volcán.
Se ve que es apasionado de los volcanes.
Ajá.
Usted sabe, ¿no?
Sí. Sobre todo porque, o sea, cuando le dije que vivíamos de en un volcán, se me dijo de cuál. O sea, no es como de X en la vida, ¿no? Sino como que conoce.
Y más que está activo, ¿no?
Anda.
¿Y cómo sabemos tan poquito, no? No sabemos nada del Popo.
No.
Solo que no va a ser erupción.
Sí, en realidad.
That crew that was in there as I was leaving told me to tell you, said thank you. Invited us to dinner. I told
yeah.
told them we were out here and the
y
way
le
it's
hubiéramos
bigger.
traído cafecito con coco.
That's a good thing. So I just try to like, I've been working in this perfect relationship for like a long time.
the
Yeah, of
information
course.
out.
Yeah, of course. So I can keep trying to like,
Y como que cerca de este lado
Absolutely.
también hay como, si fuera fogata y
And
hubieras echado unas
over the
piedritas
years I've come to
calientes, ¿no?
realize the value
Right?
of us doing it. So that I'm so really happy
Cuando dijeron,
that they're so open this time around.
That's, yeah.
¿qué es Cristo?
It's huge.
No. ¿Qué es Cristo o dice Cristo?
All right, so my number's off. That was 2 minutes, but I'm not counting this one. It's got to get bigger than that.
Es que estás de acuerdo que es
This is
como
exciting, guys. I can literally stand here and look at it all night, but I'm trying to rip my eyes away at some point.
Yeah, us too. Where are we at? 9 o'clock? 10 o'clock. Oh, jeez.
es que es como un porque,
Aurelio, ask Phil if they measured helium on gases here at La Palma. Detected a lot of radon too.
Helium and radon, I am not as familiar. They're definitely here, but I don't know that they're here in enough concentrations that we worry about them separately apart from anything else, right? Like when a VOG is coming out, it's like a whole cocktail of bad stuff.
Right.
And I know that there have been helium studies done independently, so that's why I know helium in particular, because helium tells us something geologically about the source of the magma, which is a little bit different. So there is some of that, but we don't worry about those individually as far as separating the health conditions. As far as that's the best answer I can give you, Aurelio. I don't know much about radon. Haven't heard much about radon here.
No. You know what I realized? I pointed the mic towards the volcano.
Oh.
I don't know why I did that. They can hear us, obviously. But I usually have it pointing back this way. And I guess because that's the direction it was on. Still, when I left the auditorium, I just unbuckled and pulled. But let's see.
We have room to improve.
Yeah. But here we are.
But we got it going.
We're good. There you go, Dane. Lots of heavy metals.
Yeah, Dane can probably dig out, or maybe not today, but there's some volcano watches that talk about all the different metals that are coming out of that gas thing. And maybe we can find some more in there.
There we go. Let's see if that ups the audio a little bit. If it gets a little loud, let me know. I can drop her down. I had the mic pointed in the wrong direction. Oh, ears bleeding. Crunchyroll was really... Yeah, that was me moving the mic. I guess I could have shut it off. I didn't think I was that loud. Oops.
I'm just catching up with messages all
Yeah.
over the place. See what's going on. My fingers are cold. Hey, look, at the right side. That,
Over here.
a little bit more
Yeah.
sparkle there.
See that back there? That's really pushing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, that was 6 minutes. So what could you say to the consistency of the gas pushing every 6 to 12 minutes? Any rhyme or reason?
Yeah, it's clearly got a pathway. I mean, I guess there's two possibilities there. The gas could be have a pathway out that's steady through the lava lake, or you could have like a little pond that's just kind of sitting there and it's overturning, and the gas is kind of just gathered in that pond already. It looks like it's connected to the bottom as much as it's going off as consistently and as persistently as it is, right? A lot of times with ooze up flows, we see them kind of crust over and then restart and crust over, and that's just kind of, it is going in a cycle, but it's not shutting off that much for that long compared to the other ones, you know, relatively speaking. So, I'm interested in, you know, if it is a connection going down there, and then you do see it changing, then maybe it's a matter of how much is coming out of that particular hole. Because we can tell clearly there's more than one path out of that crust because we see lava all over the place.
Yeah, it's getting obvious now, isn't it?
So, but we could kind of, we could say, well, that spot is getting fed more so now or less so now. If you see it coming on or, you know, activating more frequently on a shorter timeline maybe. So that could be the thing you could look at as if it's changing from every 2 minutes to every 6 minutes or the other way, that might say, oh, it's a little bit more open in that particular spot compared to the one behind it or to the left or to the right, or what have you. But those can be little variations and fascinating, and really want to know all of them all together, all added up, which is what we use the USGS for, why we weigh in all their measurements every week.
Yeah, right.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, without that.
It is.
All that equipment.
Kathy, I don't think we've dropped. I think it might have froze on your end, but we are still running 30 frames per second strong. You're live over there on that, right? Yep. Did it freeze?
No, still going.
No. We good. Good night. Are you gonna get the golf cart and drive it out here to help load all the gear?
I once looked into all that. Looked into the rules of the national park, and
golf
the fact that it has a motor in it makes it a little trickier. But bikes with trailers are way more.
Yeah, you mentioned that, the bike with the kiddie trailer on it.
Yep. Yep,
there goes the phone.
Yeah, I've looked at the rules about drones and considered whether you could like fly a kite instead with a camera attached. And you know, kites don't fall under drone rules.
Well, that's true.
You know, and there's a story of Maui flying a kite back in the day. And, you know,
could you fly a kite?
I actually found this is before the drones were also accessible. I've been looking at this stuff for a long time, but when they had those oil spills in the Gulf, they had a whole citizen mapping project and have free plans online for how you can take an old disposable camera, put it in the top part of a 2-liter bottle that's cut out to kind of protect it and keep it stabilized, and then fly it on a kite and actually do aerial mapping off of kites.
So you get a little stabilization,
and
you're airborne.
Yeah, aerial photographs, yep.
Isn't that clever?
Yep, so, you know, if you really have to,
Yeah.
I've considered all kinds of things out here, including golf carts. So, yes. And yeah, even when we had to hike down at the end of the Chinook Road along the coast to see the ocean entry, we really wish we had golf carts then.
Oh, yeah. Dane says, get sled dogs in a cart with rollerblades. Well, that works for us, too.
Yeah, so it used to be that you could actually, at one point, drive all the way up to where the road was cut up by lava. And then the visitor center kept getting, the little huts kept getting threatened by lava over and over. And they're like, we're going to move it way back. So they moved them back like a mile. and then the flow at that point stopped threatening that area. But then you had a mile of road you had to get to from where you parked to the edge of the lava. And like that's where we really wanted those golf carts to
Yeah, right?
just get that last bit of road before you had to walk across miles and miles up to Hoi Hoi, which is, you know, when you, especially when you come off of the thing, you're like, oh God, I wish I would just get a ride back from here.
Just brutal. Dig our dog, Denali. She's not pulling nothing. She doesn't even pull her own weight, let alone a cart.
Different.
They used to use what? Horses and mules.
Yeah.
Down into the crater on the trail right below us here.
Well, in the early 1900s, I would guess that was the way from Glenwood up here, was either by coach or by saddle. And Volcano House, I don't know where the original stables were. But that was it. Horses.
Yep.
And mules.
Yep. And then they took them down into the crater too.
Yep. I don't know what the time was, the train from Hilo to Glenwood. But if you guys don't know, Glenwood is a road that's just to the east of us, about, what did you say, about 10 minutes outside the park. And when we always talk about stopping for chili rice, that's where we stop at the Hirano store, which has been there for 100 years. The train ran, it was the HRR Railroad, ran from Hilo after the Mauna Kea or the Mauna Loa steamer would come over from Honolulu, get on the train in Hilo, and ride that up to Glenwood. And then from that point on, you caught either the stagecoach or you rode saddle horse. I think some people actually even walked. And that trip could take around, I think it was around 7 hours. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I think it's pretty close. Especially in those days.
Yeah.
The train not a bullet train.
Yeah. And before there was a train, you had to ride a coach all the way.
Right, yeah.
Right. So yeah, then it was 2 days.
Yeah, right.
To get up.
But at the stables were here, the Volcano House, I think they were called Volcano House Stables or Kilauea Stables, which also housed, what was the name of him? It was a really famous thoroughbred racing horse. Has a huge history, Hawaii has a huge history of cowboys and horse racing, which the track wasn't far from here either.
Oh. Yeah, there's all kinds of stories about that. There are old maps, corrals down on the crater floor.
Oh, really?
1850 flow, yeah. So
that's crazy.
So they had little areas where they could keep their animals down there while they were lava viewing.
Huh.
And then come back around, right? And,
yeah, because I'm sure in 1909, the hike in down here into the floor wasn't as easy as it is today down the trail. I mean, I'm sure you're getting beat up pretty good at one point.
Yeah, it's also interesting to think about how that crater floor was a different shape. It was deeper down there. So the trail actually, where it ends today, was not the end of the trail back then. You kind of kept going on that trail deeper and deeper and deeper until you got to the actual floor, and then kept going. So yeah, all kinds of things with a. Yeah, so this is on YouTube.
I was wondering, magma is quite hot, right? I have no idea how hot. Why is so cold here? I mean, it's not hot enough to warm around it?
It's, it's basically rocks are very good at keeping the same temperature. So if they're very hot, they stay hot. If they're very cold, they stay cold, usually.
Okay.
Right? That's like why we like fireplaces that are made of stone, because they stay warm all through the night or what have you, yeah? So down in there, the rocks are hot all the time.
Okay.
And there are certain areas where the ground is more cracked, where you have steam come out, where it's very hot around here as well. But where we are is not here. That's why this is a good place for us to stand and be, have cameras and things like this, because if it's a steam vent, then which is over there on that side of the crater, then yes. But most of the magma is also deep. Deeper, not very, very, very deep in the grand scale of the Earth, But
Okay.
compared to us, to people, it's deep.
It's quite deep. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Pues su explicación es muy buena porque dice que en realidad el tema tiene que ver, o sea, el tema de la temperatura tiene que ver con que es piedra. Y la piedra se adapta como a la temperatura que tiene. Entonces la piedra que está ahí está realmente caliente. Pero la piedra que está acá está fría. Entonces sí es caliente, pero principalmente el calor está dentro, en las profundidades. No tan
Coming up here,
profundo
we were
en relación
sweating
a la
at the
profundidad de la
house.
tierra, pero bastante
And
profundo en
like,
relación
oh,
a
make sure we
nuestra
grab our
profundidad.
jackets. Make sure we grab a hoodie.
Por eso en realidad
I didn't
sí
grab
dice
my
que hay
hoodie.
Oh no. Or your beanie.
Or my beanie.
Or your gloves.
Or my gloves.
Oh, you're a mess.
I told you like 3 times.
You are a mess.
You're a mess. You don't
I got
remember.
my beanie, my headlight, and my neck. Yeah. I was like, when I get too cold, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And it's almost that time.
Yeah,
Where are we
we're,
at?
we're
22
almost
and
there. My toes are numb.
Numb.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to get you back.
So you're going to stay all the night here?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So you're not staying all night?
Nope.
Oh.
I was gonna go home and watch your stream from home.
So this happened today or
Today. The increased activity began at 4 o'clock today.
que la actividad empezó a las 4 de la tarde el día de hoy. So yesterday you didn't see anything?
You see something. You see a small area.
They can hear
Oh,
you, you
okay.
know.
Right. Kind of in a
Even if I whisper, they still hear me.
Yeah.
That area would be.
Whoa, what is that going on? Do you
more
see that?
lava
Oh,
lake. There's one.
there
one
we
area
go.
That's almost always
Ooh.
open as lava.
Oh, okay,
Watch
okay,
your foot,
okay.
And
Steve.
only occasionally you have
Phil,
something
Oh.
over here or something over here.
look at this. Woo. Let me
Yeah,
change. Let me
notice
change
that
to this
bright
Oh, we
camera.
gotta go to the other side.
We're not going to the other side.
Not today. I mean, not tonight. Another time.
Oh, I thought we had something getting
Look.
ready to light right up.
No, it's on this side you can't see it because that wall.
Punto de vista.
On the other side, imagine the other side.
We're not
just,
going.
Just think about it. No, not tonight. I'm not talking about tonight. I'm not prepared not to wear shoes and cold.
Yeah, that spot just a little to the left, all the gas is coming out. We're just talking about how that could be a pathway for the stuff to come out, and it looks like that pathway is getting more open. If that much gas is coming out.
Right?
Que se está viendo como un caminito, justamente en donde sale esa parte del humo, del gas, que podría ser como un nuevo camino de donde salga.
Oh, it's just like a quick.
I know. Just
Yeah.
get me all excited. See, we start talking about going home, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Era una chiquitita. Y que-
No, but I can't.
Sí, totalmente.
It's
O sea,
way
como
too
que no
cold for
ubicamos
me.
el regalo, porque nosotros pensábamos era como... ¿Y sabes qué?
Queríamos ver Río
Me,
de
emo-
Lava.
me emocionó porque el poli dijo, o sea, el poli estaba tan emocionado.
10, 11 p.m. Need to check the webcams in a bit.
Es
Yeah,
diferente,
to see what that
pero él
was.
se refería, está haciendo así
Desde acá.
desde acá, ¿no? Es bonito.
Yeah, it seems like most of that gas is gone now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a big puff.
Right. Oh, here it comes again.
Oh, I see it
mira.
opening up. You can
Yeah.
slowly see it kind of like, oh, we need to go to the other
So
side.
that's 2 minutes in between that.
Ah,
So that's in the pond.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that, I
it's
think
in the
that
pond. Yeah,
wraps
that's
around.
that is. Yeah. Yep.
It wraps
dice
around
que
all
como
the
está,
Mhm.
está en la
and that's
fuente
where-
de la lava, parece ser. O sea, los gases.
But that pond, compare it, it seems like it's maintaining its size pretty well.
It is. Yeah.
I don't know, it could be even be getting bigger. It's hard for me to tell.
Oh, the gas is going directly to that side. Well, not directly, but it's going that way though. If the wind moves, it can blow over to those devastation side.
There we go. Oh, this makes it harder and harder to leave, doesn't it?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
there we go. Yeah.
Esto es como el Gran Cañón.
So from the other side,
Si lo miras,
we can't catch any of this.
y solo lo miras,
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
muy hipnotizante.
That's the I mean, yeah, we're closer, but the disadvantage of being over there is we miss that.
Yeah,
All you're catching is a little.
over top of the island.
Right. Yeah.
Admiración. Sí, sí, lo Oso de felpa. ¿Me abrazas?
¿Tienes frío?
Ya. Ándale, así es.
It's gonna spin and trickle. It's warm. And it's so cold.
Te pasas de gracia. Májalo. Aunque hay que tener cuidado con esas palabras porque estaban diciendo que a Nico lo detuvieron porque dijo aloha. No, dijo, hizo sin el aloha. Y que eso es como burlarte de la gente. O sea, como que tienen que ir juntos este movimiento y el aloha porque si no como que la gente lo entiende como o algo así. Entonces los polis se enojaron y por eso.
Really, you want me to tell her thank you?
Exactamente. Porque dicen que saben.
I really was getting the Spanish translation tonight of what's going on up here.
La cultura, sí.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, right?
You never know what you're gonna get.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Está súper calientito.
Webcams really don't show much.
This is the kind of thing that's really way more spectacular, just looking at it than looking at the webcams. We'll look at the webcams and we'll kind of summarize it all and tell it as a story, but it won't have nearly the detail that you get looking at it minute by minute. That's how it always is.
No, yo creo que eso es lo que va haciendo. No, me refiero a así como ahorita, mañana, un día cercano a este día.
Alright, so should we say goodbye so we can all go home, get warm, have dinner, since nobody brought pizza?
We have some room for improvement next week.
Alright, let's get in full screen here. Estelle, babe, where you at?
Oh, right here.
Get in here.
You can see me.
There you are.
Yeah.
Barely. Alright guys, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for joining us up here at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Dane in the background, I know you're still there. Thanks for everything. If you guys stuck with us through the auditorium presentation, how do you describe your walk out here? The crickets and the
yes,
kokies.
Crickets and kokies.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So fun night.
Nighttime walk.
A lot of things happening, but it was a fun night. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Try it again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next week, the talk is going to be about the current eruption. That's going to be near its one year anniversary.
We are 1 year next week.
And they'll have a whole new episode to talk about. It just
Yeah.
happened tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll get to hear about what happened tonight from the geologists at the USGS next week on Tuesday. And then next week on Thursday, hopefully outside.
Yeah, outside. Pretty awesome.
So it's a new thing, and great job, you guys.
Thank you. Good job
Thank
to you.
you.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Hit the thumbs up. Comment if you're just watching this on the replay. Hit the big red button. It's free. And we'll see you next time. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.